Hey guys, good morning and welcome to the second live stream of 2018. This one's going to be a little bit different. You can see the set's a little different. I piled up all my stuff and headed up north to visit Debbie. So I'm actually doing the live stream from her living room / kitchen. Hopefully you guys can hear and see me okay. If you guys can give me a sound check and stuff like that, and then we'll go ahead and start jumping into it. It's a little bit of a different configuration, so it's going to be a little more complicated, or I guess complicated, and then we'll dive into things. So let me make sure do my nifty little, what do you call it, check thing to make sure I'm live and it's doing something, and waiting for it to look. Yeah, okay, cool. Looks like I'm live over here on this thing. All right. No visuals. Okay, Donnie Earthling says no visuals. Okay, so everybody else having any issues? Because I actually have, I'm actually streaming. So sounds good. Okay, Michael Gates says sounds good. Jenny Wren says all good, Dwayne. So Donnie, you might need to hit refresh because that has a tendency to be a problem. So this is going to be a little weird because of the way I have my stuff configured. So it might take me a couple of minutes. Okay, Jenny says there's no issues. Okay, so first thing, I just want to say welcome to the second live show. And let me make sure I got everything going here. Today is going to be a little bit of a different show because what I'm going to do is Debbie's going to come on here in a little bit and we're going to chat. Old Johnny Road says kitchen. We're going to chat a little bit about how narcissists, especially narcissistic exes, impact new relationships and how that emotional abuse doesn't really end. And I've talked before about how, at least in my story, things would seem to get better. You would think you'd make it over a milestone and then something else would happen and something else would happen. And that's kind of a situation we had to deal with. So we'll jump to that in a minute. Yeah, Shannon says Shannon O'Brien needs to refresh. Hold on, let me just do this real quick. If you can't see anything, whoopsie, I say see anything, please refresh your browser. Okay, so hopefully that will help. And hopefully the text went out and I sent the email out, so we should be good to go. My more normal monitor is a little bit lower than it was, so that's why my eye line is going to be a little bit different. So before we jump into everything, let me just check and see who all we have here. So we got Old Chiny Road. So welcome, Old Chiny Road. As usual, you're the first one here. Jenny Wren's online. So at least you don't have to be up at 2 o'clock in the morning, UK time or Ireland time, or maybe you're a little bit later. So glad, hopefully we have a few. I think Donnie's in here too. So we got a couple of UK people in the house. So that's awesome. Old Chiny Road and before the show started, was talking about how the video from yesterday really resonated with him, and his ex pulled a thing to where he's like, she's making the kids, or basically kind of not forcing the kids on him, but it's like, hey, you need to keep the kids an extra day. And it's funny how early in the stages of this, how when they start doing stuff like that where they're getting over on you, it really is frustrating. And then after a while, you're just kind of, it's almost entertaining. Donnie Earthling's on, says, good afternoon, everyone. Hey, I'll say afternoon. So instead of 2 in the morning, like I was just saying a minute ago, Shannon O'Brien's on. Welcome, Shannon. Christy Lee is on. So welcome, Christy. And Ken Walter is online, says, hi all, looking forward to today's topic. Yeah, hopefully this will be a good one. I'm looking forward to this too. Plus, this will be the first time. Well, I tell you what, I'll go through this and then we'll jump into it. So, all right, let's see who else we have here. Oh, Tony Davis is on. Welcome to the channel. Welcome to the live stream. I don't think I've seen you on before. Eddie knows. Oh, hey, Eddie, glad you're on. Haven't seen you in a couple. Well, I guess this is only my second one of the year, but it seems like it's been a long time. Michael Gates is on, and Elizabeth. Welcome, Elizabeth. Glad you could jump on. And we got Schaefer1234. Welcome, Schaefer1. Glad you could jump on. And hopefully, Donnie, I see your comment from before where you said there's no visuals. So hopefully that's working. So Polarverse IT Service, welcome to the channel. Welcome to the live stream. Glad you could jump in. Oh, Chris Davis. Okay. See, you guys change your names sometimes and it completely messes me up. Phil Smith is online. So welcome, Phil. And let's see. So, and spiritually empowered welcome to the live show. I know you were talking about jumping on, so you guys should check her out on Facebook. She's a life coach and does has a workbook that her and her I guess friend, I guess would be the right way to say it, have just put out to try to help her audience to really try to change the new year and how they approach it, and be, kind of, what's the word I'm trying to think of? Be in your gratitude and really focus on the positive. So I'm excited to see how that's going to go. And we're actually planning on doing some collaboration stuff soonish. So that'll be good. Okay. So before we start, let me do this. And I'm going to say, actually, I'm going to go do the channel stuff. Nah, I'm not going to do that. Okay, sorry about that. All right, so as you guys know, I've talked about Debbie quite a bit on the channel, and she's been in the comments every once in a while, we decided to try to do something a little different. Initially, it was like I would just do a live show just here, and I was like, you know what, this would be a good opportunity because a lot of you guys have asked about how this whole situation has impacted her and what her lessons learned have been. So I figured it would be a really good time to do that. So without too much further ado, see, I'm going to do the wide camera here. I'm going to introduce Debbie, and she can say hi to you guys. So let's see. There you go. So now, first time live. So say hello.
Hello, everyone. How are you doing? I am new to all this, so bear with me. So this is a lot of fun.
Yeah,
this is great.
I think it's going to be cool. I'm going to grab my coffee.
Yeah, he's the expert here. But so I'm getting, he's going to try to get me used to this.
Yeah, this was, so when I got in last night, it was, hold on, let's see if we can try this one. So when I got in last night, it was pretty late. We went out to dinner, had a nice dinner because yesterday was our 4-year anniversary since we've been together. So that's been pretty awesome. And came back and then spent 2 hours trying to set all this stuff up. When I have it set up at the other place, it's like, it's always set up, it's always ready to go. So it makes it, I don't think about it. And then when I tore all this stuff down, and what I'll do is I'll take a picture and I'll put a picture on the Facebook page later. It was pretty crazy. Okay, so let's see. We got everyone saying hi, Debbie. So everyone's welcoming you to the channel. See, now this is where it's going to be hard because of the way we watch the chat and everything. So what do we got here? Let's see. Tony Davis says, I've been a wreck without our tribe. Yeah, it was kind of hard being offline. Angel's online, so welcome, Angel. She says hi. So you got all these people saying hi. Eddie knows.
That's awesome.
Angel says hi. Kay Lily says hi. Nice kitchen. Polaverse IT service says nice. It actually is a pretty nice apartment. Schaefer1234 says hi, Debbie. And Averline B's on. Haven't seen you in a while, so welcome. Glad you could jump on. And congratulations, Michael Robertson's online. Welcome, Michael. Says, I lived in Maryland, moved to Tennessee to start over. Not a bad idea. I remember at one point my own dad said, once the kids are all done and, child support's over, you should quit your job and move to the other side of the country. Didn't quite understand what he meant at first, but after a while it made sense. So, all right, guys. So what we're going to do, let me come back over here. Oh, I'm already on that. So I am going to switch over here, and whatever questions you guys want to talk, but we'll just start with some stuff, and we'll go and we'll just kind of see how this goes, and just kind of play this fast and loose and see what happens. So first thing, here, let's do this. The first thing wanted to say, so, and we were talking about this yesterday on the drive up, and it was, so how did you, when we first met, and I was still pretty angry. I mean, so realistically, in the grand scheme of things, it was probably a little too soon to really get into a relationship because I hadn't really started my healing. I had put my head in the sand, and I thought that I was healed, and I thought that I had moved on from it, but it wasn't from confronting the situation. It was because I was ignoring the situation. So whenever I would, in a semi angrily mode, talk about situations involving the ex. What was your impression of that? I mean, did you believe it, or what was your initial take or thought on that?
You know, it's hard to have to admit this, especially to our subscribers here, because they don't know you the way I did a few years back, and
yeah, that's for sure
the beginning of your journey. And Dwayne, as he have said before, he would never have been able to put together this type of a thing in those stages. So I found that we were talking about a lot of the same things over and over,
yeah.
and the anger was, you know, well, it's not like when we first met, it wasn't right out of the box, because if it would have been like that, it would have been, whoa. It was more like everything seemed okay, and then some things happened on the ex's side. She reacted to me being in the picture, and then that catapulted things, and you know, that's really what stirred the pot. That's really what got it going, because we were really just staying quiet. He and I agreed that I wasn't going to be introduced to the kids right away.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Right? So everything was calm, right? It was calm. And it wasn't until after we decided to do that to kind of change everything. And there was, and so I wasn't sure what to do with that. I thought, well, you know, it's been a couple of years. He's had time to process this, and you know, it's normal. He's just, you know, it's okay. But I didn't realize how deep it went.
Oh, and I didn't either. I mean, one of the things that was so when we met, I thought everything was stable, right? So the stuff with the ex had, I thought it subsided. And, you know, I mean, we had dated 3 months. I think initially we were talking about waiting 6 months, but you know, I initially was like, okay, we're not even mentioning anything to the kids about this until, you know, a period of time. Then at the 3-month mark, we went ahead and did that. And then all hell broke loose. I mean, it was, as I've mentioned before, the ex had turned me into child support services for being a deadbeat father. And what happened, you know, so that there was some IRS stuff with head of household that was going on. I mean, it was like everything went to crap. And I mean, the stress levels just went through the roof. And the problem with a lot of this is when that pressure starts, I mean, it just corrupts everything. And if you haven't processed that anger, if you haven't really dealt with it, then it comes crashing back. I mean, it's just, a nightmare. And I mean, but even, I'm trying to remember, I mean, even before that happened, was I still really angry, or was I pretty much, I mean, because I know we went through it when she was talking about, we were talking about the same thing over. I mean, it seemed like for a long time, all we were talking about was the ex. And I mean, it was like every conversation had something to do with her. But that wasn't happening before that, right?
Not really. We were focused on, wow, isn't this great? We have this great connection. I really, you know, we enjoyed spending time together, and it was really, you know, very positive. And then all of a sudden it took this turn, and boy, that was tough. I mean, we actually had to schedule time in the day to where we both agreed we will not talk about the stress between you and your ex for the next few hours. Let's please have a few hours of our time. Remember that we had to, like, we'd be on a road trip or something, and there all this stress bubbling up, and we're like, you know what, we gotta have a few hours of just peace. It's just not think about, you know, and you know what?
Yeah.
Both of us broke those promises. I would too. I mean, I'm not blaming, you know, it's not a blame game. I mean, I would do it too. Like, we'd be quiet for a while, we'd talk about something else, and then something would come up, let's say something to do with the kids or a schedule. Oh boy. And then right back on the hamster wheel.
Tons of triggers.
Lots of triggers.
And that was a tough time. I mean, I would say, you know, it almost, I mean, you know, everything seems pretty stable and not seems, it is stable, but you know, I mean, everything has really changed. And it really, for a while there, it almost didn't it almost destroyed the relationship.
It could have. Yeah. Because you can't build a solid foundation with a new person if the whole, you know, if 90% of your conversations are about what do you, dealing with the aftermath of some small drama.
Yeah, exactly.
It was really difficult.
All right, so let's check a couple of the comments so we're not missing too many things. So let me go back over here. So okay, so Esther says, not being introduced to the kids, why? It just does not seem right. Why secrecy? Well, that is an excellent question. What I would say on that is, okay, from my experience, seeing other people go through relationships, there's that honeymoon stage of a relationship, and then, kind of reality sets in. And what I had seen in the past is typically that plays out in 3 to 6 months. So what I didn't want to do is I did not want to introduce the kids to anybody until I felt that relationship was really solid and a long term. Really, I mean, it's 4 years, right? We just hit 4 years, so that's why I waited. And I would recommend anybody, if you're starting out, just leave your kids out of it. It's not. It's not. I mean, I understand if you have custody most of the time, or if you have like full custody, it makes it a little harder because hey, mommy, hey, daddy, where are you going? Type thing. But wait, right? Because see, here's the thing. Then if something does go wrong, then, now your kids are going through that, another time. So, that's my, that's my issue on that. What do you think about that, Debbie?
I think waiting was really good. I mean, okay, think about it, and this is for the people out there. Think about it from this perspective. So we just finished saying what happened after the reveal came, right? Imagine if we just now met, right out of the gate, this got started. It would have torpedoed the very beginning of our meeting and
probably.
Getting to know each other. We wouldn't have even had those, 3 or 4 months or whatnot of just getting to know each other without all that extra stress piled up. So this is not a shaming for people who introduce someone, hello, we're going to go on a coffee date. We'll be back in no, this is not shaming anyone for doing that. That's not what we mean at all. But it's almost like as if he had a little voice inside of him that said, maybe, even though he didn't know exactly what would happen after I was introduced, he must have had some little voice that said, just kind of chill for a while. So I'm glad we had those quiet months.
Yeah.
We might not have, I'm not saying we would have broke up indefinitely. I'm just saying we might have had to take a break and that kind of thing, because of the stress.
Yeah. So I see Michael's talking about some stuff. So let me take a look at this. So you said you moved to Maryland, or moved from Maryland, lived in Maryland, moved to Tennessee. So single dad for years. She decided to want him after leaving him to me. She got a restraining order on me and did all the evil things that they do. And you had you had custody then? So she left you, you had the kids, you had your child, and then she started doing this stuff? Huh. Called Child Protective Services on me many times, all unfounded, and tried a restraining order, like I said, then putting him in the middle. I can relate to a lot of what went through. And he died who died 5 years ago? Michael? So yeah, a lot of people are asking that. So Michael says, I had primary custody for years. She wanted to leave him to me. She wanted her space to be with another man. Years later, she wanted him back. Of course, I fought in court, and then she uses courts and police against you. Whoops, it just scrolled up. So I think I'm missing something there. So hard to believe the ex can destroy your world. Yeah, and I'm not sure exactly. Okay, so you lost your job, everything basically, and then broke down. So how are you doing now, Michael? I don't know who you said, unless you're saying she died. I'm confused on who passed away. So if you could answer that would be helpful. All right, so let me check some of the other comments. Let me scroll down here. Now I got to do my normal little bouncing around. Yeah, it's weird, and that's where we're going to get into the next question is what they can really do. I mean, it's kind of surprising because you don't. I mean, until you've been through this, you don't really understand how much somebody else can really impact your life. And so one thing I would say on that, so the next question I wanted to ask you is, and we didn't really get into it, but so when it shifted, and I was talking about her, because this is what we were talking about earlier, you know, you had a comment about what you thought about what I was saying, like, you know, that you were like, well, maybe I'm exaggerating it.
Right.
Maybe it's,
right.
you know, not so much. So talk a little bit about that.
I didn't want to believe that it could be that bad. Like, how could it be that bad? And, you know, because I stayed out of it. I didn't have any interactions with her. And it wasn't until that fateful day when, see, because he has the hybrid no contact, right? And thank goodness he does that. But there was some items over at the house that go back and forth at some point here and there. And she's very possessive with all,
stuff.
How do I say this? Anything that the children are supposed to share at both households, she's like very tight with it. And she wants a thorough explanation for every time something leaves the house. It's a bizarre. So here I am thinking, you know, Dwayne, you're overreacting. It's no big deal. I'll just go over there and ask for the the vacation suitcases. No big deal.
Yeah.
It's a simple question. And Dwayne allowed me to experience all this for myself. And let me tell you, it was never the same after that. I came back and I said, Dwayne, for every time in the past that I ever thought that you were exaggerating about her behavior, I sincerely apologize, and I will never think that again.
Yeah.
Because the way I was treated, the subtle put downs, she would smile. She would have a smile on her face, but she was putting me down for the way something about my face or whatever it was. I just
wasn't it you were in the sun, right?
I was in the sun and I was squinting and she said, "Oh, is there something wrong with your eyes? Is there something wrong with your eyes? I just think there might be the way you're looking. Like, are you okay?" She asked me if I was okay 5 times, and I was looking at her like, "Who talks like that? Who talks like it?" Is the first time I met her, and within just a few minutes, I can feel my heart beating a little faster and a little faster. In the back of my mind, I'm saying, "Oh my gosh, Dwayne was telling the truth. He was telling the truth." And when I asked, "Is it okay that, you know," and I said very politely, "May the children just go ahead and have their little vacation." She said, "Well, where are you guys going?" I said, "Well," I said, "Well, what difference does it make? They need to, you know, the little suitcases." She goes, "Well, I bought that when we were married. So with the credit card that he had, she went to the JCPenney and bought it. And so now we have to have a complete dissertation on where." So in order to borrow, and that's even funny just to say borrow, we had to tell her where we were going and how long we were going.
Though.
Well, no, we didn't.
And we'll get into that in a minute.
Yeah. And so I'm sorry. I know you don't want to go too far into that, but I'm just saying and there were more things that happened during that time. She stomped off like a child. And then I said, "Are you kidding me? We're adults." And then she stomped back and then she continued talking. And it was a very bizarre experience. And, and then she is a completely different body type than me. So another way that she subtly put me down, maybe some women out here have had this happen to them. So she wears a much smaller dress size than me. And so she was talking about this tiny little dress she has hanging in her closet that, it's so sad. I just don't have anyone to give it to. I just have nothing to wear. I have nowhere to wear this dress. Would you like me? Would you be interested in it? I'm looking at her like, "Are you kidding me?" You know, like. Yeah,
even my 12-year-old and my 15-year-old are actually bigger.
I actually did say that, Dwayne, too. I kind of threw that in there. I said, "Well, not only would I not be able to wear it, but neither of your daughters are going to be able to wear it either. Gosh, that's so sad. I guess you'll have to donate it to the Goodwill." Like, I think I played it pretty good. I stayed calm. I didn't say how, that hurts my feelings. I didn't even tell her that it hurts my feelings or anything like that. I just like, wow. Like, I cannot imagine. I personally couldn't imagine speaking to someone in that manner. Okay, that's like going up to somebody who's unable to walk and saying, well, I'm going skiing this weekend. Would you like to go skiing this weekend? Because I got some skis right here, and they don't have legs, and you're asking them. So I'm just saying, it's the audacity.
Yeah.
So sorry about that.
No, I want to, some folks clarified what was going on. So Michael had earlier said that my son died because ex-wife wanted to regain custody of him. He wanted to stay with me after months of putting me and him through hell and could not take the stress anymore and committed suicide at 15. So that's what that was. Michael, I am so sorry about that. That's horrible. And you said you had 2 sons. So, I mean, I hope, how long ago was that? I don't know if you said that. I'm going to see if I can scroll through that. So that's probably why you were saying you moved to Tennessee to start over. Yeah, I mean, and the problem is these folks don't even care what they're doing. It's really all about them. I mean, it's like they are so fixated on what they're doing and what they want that they don't even think about what's happening or what the impact to the other child is. That is just horrible, Michael. I'm sorry to hear about that.
I'm sorry as well. I didn't see those.
No, whenever you were talking, I was able to look through the comments, and some folks had mentioned that they're, had put that out there.
So absolutely, I'm not trying to diminish what that's very important. I wanted to. I see that Ben there was mentioning about the luggage. I just want to say that exactly where there is. I came back to the house, and I very plainly told Dwayne that by no means would we ever be switching items back and forth, that I would never go over there again unless it was like absolute emergency.
Well, and I think the issue with that is, see, at that time you still didn't realize. I didn't know. I didn't. I was like, you know what, let it go. I mean, we'll use trash bags, because I was, I'm like, I'm not going to deal with it. Not going to be beholden to her or try to. Oh, well, what are you going? Is it worthy of, to have the luggage? I mean, and it was crap luggage. No. I mean, it wasn't like it was a big deal.
No, and look, I was being naive. I really didn't know. I mean, I was just thinking, I'll be helpful. We need to pack. So I'm just being helpful. I didn't see how it could turn in. So, of course, no. Yeah. Never again. So, it's, look, I mean, we learn from trying things and seeing how it doesn't work out, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So if anyone's wondering, trust me, I learned my lesson.
Ken says, I'd pack the stuff in cardboard boxes before I would talk to my ex. Seriously, wouldn't ask her for water if I was dying of thirst. Yeah, and Ken, that's funny, because that's really, I mean, that's where I was, and Debbie hadn't been targeted by this, and was that before the sabotaged? No, that was after, right? I mean, so you kind of had already dealt with her sabotaging the events, because we had the year before, or at the beginning of summer, we were going to try to take the kids to like medieval times, and this was really annoying, because what happened with that is, I, like an idiot, I had mentioned something to the kids, because, I mean, money's tight. So a lot of times it's like, well, I mean, are they really going to enjoy it, or is it really going to be more annoying? I got to remember my eye line on the different, because we have different cameras. So I'm going to go like this. It's really annoying, whenever you do stuff and the kids don't like it, right? So I had mentioned something to my youngest daughter, and it was bizarre, because it was like, it was the ex's weekend. Or no, it was my weekend. Kids were going to go to their mom's Monday and Tuesday and then be back with me. And over that weekend, I had mentioned, hey, what do you guys think about medieval times? Right. And thinking whatever. And Debbie was actually kind of frustrated by that I would even say something. And would you know it, the ex miraculously had tickets that she never told the kids about.
Yeah, these coupons.
Yeah, these coupons, had a special deal on it, and took the kids.
Yeah, actually, we had
It was pretty annoying.
Dwayne and I pretty much don't argue about anything, but this topic really was hard, because after he said, well, I brought it up with, I guess, with one of the girls, and I said, well, you did what? You mentioned it? Excuse me.
Yeah.
Excuse me. I said, you mentioned that? And he said, there's nothing to worry about. She's already had the vacation with the kids. There's no possible way that she's going to do that thing that, because his vacation week was just a few days away. And I told him, I said,
and she had pretty much established that she wouldn't spend a dime on the kids. So I'm like, there's no way in hell she's going to take.
So Dwayne was steadfast. He was like, there's no way that this is going to happen. Don't worry. And that's exactly.
So Michael has added some extras, or answered some of the stuff. So,
okay.
No, I was just, you're asking what I was missing. Yeah, I missed part of the original conversation. So, so you said that your son committed suicide, and in the note he said he could not fathom living with his mom, was afraid I would lose custody of him in court. See, and that's, God, man. How long ago was that? Typing too fast. I'm sorry, man. I mean, that's just Absolutely. Horrible.
And I'm sorry too. It's difficult. Like, he and I are discussing a topic that really, in the grand scheme of things, is not even nearly as important. So, as I said before, we're not trying to diminish what's important here, or overshadow. Sorry. At all. So.
Yeah, Michael Gates has said, hopefully one day courts will be held accountable for what they allow and cause on our children. Yeah, I don't, it's just frustrating. I mean, there's a bunch of different stories on different levels of how these situations just destroy lives, and it's basically just a person who can only think about themselves, who only is worried about their own wants and needs and what's important for them, and they don't even think about what's happening or what they're doing. So Shannon says, I was 53 before I realized it was my mother who was the primary toxic one. My dad got drawn into PTSD and depression. Mom made everything out as his fault, did such an excellent gaslighting. Yeah. Kay Lilly says, agreed to Michael Gates' comment. And Eddie No says, Shannon, thank God you figured it out. It's so unfair that you were lied to like that. Yeah, well, and that's the thing, right? I mean, they do everything to try to destroy the other parents, I mean, because it's a contest. It's crazy because, kids, I mean, we know that kids need both, even though some of us have toxic parents. I think most of us understand that children still want the love of the other parent. I mean, it's still important for that. The other parent's only concerned about winning. The narcissistic parent is only concerned about being chosen, being, the selected one, and being the victim, and trying to get their validation by getting their kids to hate the other parent and choose them. I mean, it's just sick. And they can't even fathom what they're doing. All right, so let me look a little bit more at the comments. Oh God. So Michael said, we were watching a movie and later he fell asleep. Wife awoke me and said, Michael's not breathing. I tried CPR and EMS arrived and took over. He was pronounced dead at the hospital. My world fell apart. I can't even imagine. I cannot even imagine. And the sad part, well, no, that's sad, but I mean, my guess would be that your ex didn't, it probably, I mean, I don't know if it was just the one child, or if you had two with her, if your other child was with her, I would imagine she still would be trying to get custody of him and not even realizing what she did. That's just horrible. So Tracy Malone just jumped on, says, wow, Dwayne, how are you doing this with the chat side by side? Actually, I'm using OBS, and that's how I'm doing the switching thing. Ping me later, and we can talk about that. Avril B says, Michael Robertson, so very sorry. Yeah, that is just horrible, man. I mean, that's... I'm trying to see if you said how long. I mean, I'm still trying to figure out whether this was a recent thing or if this was years ago. Taldemon's on, says, hi all, happy new year 2018. So welcome, Taldemon. Glad you could jump on. Man. Michael says, my ex would call my new wife all kinds of names. Oh yeah, absolutely. Because she has to be horrible So it's just, man, messed up. Kay Lily says, another cool site to watch, Tracy Malone. Yeah, if you guys don't know, Tracy Malone does have a YouTube channel, which is also called Tracy Malone. So if you click on her the little dots on her thing, on her name, it'll take to her, or you can just search on her name and it will come up. And she also has a really good web resource for narcissistic abuse recovery. All right, so Michael says, my ex would call the police a day. Wife was abusing my son. God. Man, I'm at a loss, Michael. That is just years of court child service investigation. Well, I could see how your son was getting nervous, right? I mean, if she's playing all those games and you have all these people coming in, she probably was worried that well, obviously he was worried, but that's just, man, dude, I am so sorry for what you've gone through. That is just horrible. So, Esther says, dear Michael, if that helps you, helped me make this thing much more serious so it can never happen to my kids. Please do videos of your story in honor of your child's memory. Michael says, she would say that she loved me while she was with her boyfriend. Oh, and they do that, right? I mean, that's part of that hoovering thing and that triangulation thing. Okay. Oh yeah, messing with your mind. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, unfortunately, that's what they do, because that's what it is. It's all about control. It's all about control and manipulation. And that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to win. They're trying to destroy you and trying to win at the same time. So, all right. So let's, it's kind of weird because I mean, it's like, how do we progress on with trying to continue with what we're talking about with dealing with such a horrible, horrible situation? And I don't want to diminish what you've had to go through. And see, and this also kind of, when I talk a lot about perspective, this is kind of the thing I'm talking about, right? We get so wrapped up in the BS that's going on that sometimes you can lose sight of what's really important, and I mean, in Michael's situation with what he's talking about, I mean, it's not, I mean, I don't know what you could have done differently, but I would say, I mean, you look at that situation compared to everything else, and all the other stuff is just crap. The little nuances, like we were talking about a minute ago with the suitcases, it doesn't mean anything, right? And that's the problem with a lot of this is it, in a situation where they're involving other people, then it does mean something, because there is real fear there. But at the same time, I mean, like Michael was saying, none of the accusations were unfounded. So they were getting harassed a lot, but it wasn't that the police or Child Protective Services came in and said, well, there's a mistake, and they took the kids from them. I mean, it was just somebody who was doing everything that they possibly could to make someone else's life a living hell. Okay, so Michael says, don't know, have not spoken to her in years. Okay. God, man. All right, so we're going to, let's see, I'm going to flip over.
Dwayne, I would just to ask you something. I know that your viewers have sometimes written in about issues, like how the strong feelings that they have and the depression, and that you've given out the toll-free number before. And also, when you dial into those numbers, those crisis hotlines, they could also refer people to recovery for survivors and family members of those who had passed. And so I was just hoping that that Michael has had all that access, and I don't know the whole backstory, so I haven't been able to read every sentence there, so I don't know how those things are going.
Oh wow, Tracy says, my ex-narcs, his son tried to kill himself by drinking bleach, And if I remember correctly from what Tracy had said, was that the son that you were actually, I mean, basically helping raise for a while and doing all the stuff with him for a bit? Because I know that's what I remember you talking about that on your channel. So, all right, let's see here. Kayla says, so I still feel sorry for my ex. I think he must have BPD, as he seems so upset and sad, crying, cries, etc., but also does such hateful things to me. Michael said, gonna time ex, or I guess maybe one time ex told me to come over and pick up my son. She would get him 2 weekends a month. So Kira Bright says, can't bear to think how a parent can be so selfish to drive their child to suicide. We go the extra mile fighting in court to protect our children, and the courts just keep allowing their game. Yeah, and the problem with that is they don't believe it. See, there's so many lies and deceit in family court that the net effect of it is that nobody believes anybody, right? Unless there is hard evidence. They just assume you're both being knuckleheads, and that it's, that they're going to force you to work together. Family courts have switched to where they now think or believe that it's in the child's best interest to have a relationship with both parents. And I will agree to that, because part of the problem whenever they don't is then you have them feeling that they were abandoned by their parents. Even if they haven't, even if the other parent has alienated their child from the other parent, and the other parent really does want to have a relationship, the problem is that in the kid's mind, and more than likely the parent is going to help foster that your dad doesn't really care, or your mom doesn't really care about you, and they didn't fight for you, or whatever the story is. And then they're raised dealing with that, and that creates a whole nother laundry list of problems. So they're trying to fix it by, there's just a whole ton of scenarios where everyone lies, right? Everyone goes in and they try to, they go, the other parents are horrible, the other parent's abusive, like in Michael's situation, that, she's trying to say, all this stuff's going on, because if any of those things can catch and it can show evidence, then the courts will do it, and it's, allow either switch custody or allow more time. I mean, it's really frustrating. Yeah, and like Michael said, years later she wanted custody. Well, and what happened is that she decided at one point that she needed it for whatever her image was. It wasn't about I'm sure it wasn't about what was in the best interest of the kids. It was like, oh crap, you know what? Now I want to have my child because people think I'm a piece of crap for leaving, and my story isn't settling. So I'm going to get my kids so I can be the good, I can be the struggling single parent. It's just, it's just one of those things. It's a reoccurring story. Oh, okay. Michael says, no, daughter wants nothing to do with me, even though I raised her for 17 years and the ex brainwashed her and turned her against me. Yeah. And sometimes they can. I mean, yeah. And your son was your best friend. Ken says children become pawns, sickening. Yeah. It is, and it's tough, and the problem is that you're not allowed to like the other parent. It's not, you're punished on it, and then the child has to pick. They have to pick who, which situation they feel more comfortable in, and set, plant their flag, so to speak. I mean, it's a really tough situation. Michael Gates says, I provided my attorney with lots of evidence of my wife lying to the courts. Her opinion was we didn't have to go there. The judge ultimately believed those lies. See, and you know what, Michael Gates, and I know because we have multiple Michaels, so that is something that I've seen on a reoccurring trend, right? I have another friend of mine who spent a year-long court battle to get custody resolved. Ex-wife, unilaterally decided to start changing things, and as a result of that, all the allegations and all the stupid stuff that was going on. And it was weird because he had gone through one evaluation, and initially the evaluator had said, believe what the ex was saying. And then some things happened, excuse me. And that evaluator was like, hey, I'll go back to court because this is wrong. And then that person retired. And ultimately at the end of the day, and the judge retired too. I mean, it was really weird. It's like through the course of that year, because it took so long, all the players all switched out. So when he went to the final court or to the final hearing, it was new judge, new custody evaluator, and the other stuff that the judge had said, no, we're not talking about this. This has been resolved, was allowed back in. Now he still basically won what he was looking for, because initially he was just looking for 50-50, right? He had shared care, or 50-50 type custody, even though his visitation was less. The ex basically said, no, you're killing the kids, no. Canceled his vacation with his child and stuff. And ultimately, all he wanted was shared, was equal time. And he ultimately got it, but he was ran through the ringer on it. And a lot of the other stuff that shouldn't have been allowed was allowed. So technically, in my mind, he still won, but he didn't feel like he won right after, because they basically stuck their finger right in his eye about a lot of things that were going on. So, I see Good One Wah just came on. So good morning. Good One Wah says, good morning, Dwayne. Michael Robertson says, but X felt she was a great mom. Oh, absolutely. And never asked for child support. Man. Leanne Minsky was online. So welcome, Leanne. Says, my little one is 14 months. And that's my worst scenario, that when she is able to talk and reason, he will turn her against me. He will be able to do that from the beginning. Yeah, see, the thing on that, guys, is your best defense on that is, and it's not a guarantee, but your best defense is being able to build a good, solid relationship with your child, with good communication, where they feel that they know that they can trust you, they know that you love them. And then it minimizes that, because they're so starved for it, they want it. Now, that's not to say, that's not to say that it's not, that the ex won't ever be able to turn, because it is a distinct possibility. So, all right. I missed something that Good One Wah had said. So we're trying to read this on the screen. It says, my current is a pretty great mom. I'm basically the focus of her. I'm the chosen. Okay, I missed what you said there. Sorry about that. Michael says, I believe courts favor moms, no doubt. Yeah, and it really depends on what's going on with that, right? I mean, it depends on the judge, because I think you're right that it's if you were to bet money that that's the situation you're going to have. But don't completely give up either, because it's not, there are a lot of stories of men getting custody now and being able to, and it being more even than it was in the past. Polaverse, IT Service says, my ex was a great mom, but seems to have forgotten what is important. Too busy trying to ruin my life. Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, so you guys, she was a pretty good mom. That's an interesting point too. And I think what happens is that whenever you're in a relationship and everything's great, then everything's fine, and they're not trying to target anybody, right? Because they're getting their supply, they're getting their emotional needs met. But whenever they lose control of you, it's like they lose sight of everything and just focus on that. So Michael Gates says, absolutely, Michael, at the beginning of my trial, the judge basically told my lawyer that we should go home. Yeah. I mean, and I think the only situation, or the only option you have in that regard is switching judges. And I know you can only do that a couple times. So Good One Wah has a question, and so I'll go ahead and grab that. So you guys, just to remind everybody, if you have a question that you want highlighted, just put question in the beginning of the comment and we'll cover that. So let me grab this and go over. Whoops, wrong way. Well, not here. And okay. And then we will bring up Keynote. And actually, I might have to, I don't know if I added your mic to this one. So, well, let me just go through it. Okay. So Good One Lost says question. I've made some mistakes, some passive aggressive, I'm unhappy, so sort of thing, which is giving my wife unlimited supply. It's a blank check. How do you forgive yourself and move on? That's a really great question. And what I would say on that, here, let me go, let me do this, and I'll get Debbie's opinion on this too. But my first comment on that is all of us make mistakes. So, you know, you can't live in the past on what decisions or what actions you've taken, because it'll destroy you. All of us can sit there and look at our past mistakes and just ruminate about the mistakes we've made and beat ourselves up. You have to basically say, okay, you know, you've made mistakes. That's fine. You're going to move on and do something different. And to be honest with, like the video I made the other day, you know, allowing your ex to think that they're winning. If she has this blank check that is giving her unlimited supply, who cares? Right? I know initially for me, anytime I thought the ex felt that she was getting one over on me, it really made me angry. I don't care anymore. If she thinks that she's winning and she feels smug, and I mean, it is kind of annoying when she, you know, seems smug, but it's one of those things where at the end of the day, it doesn't, you know, whatever she's doing or however she's getting supply off of thinking that she's winning, or, you know, has unlimited supply off of me, it really doesn't matter. You focusing on or thinking or ruminating about the ex, even your interactions with them isn't healthy for you. That's where, like a lot of times I mentioned the video, the black hole thinking video. That's kind of what I'm talking about in this, is where you realize that whatever they're thinking or doing is irrelevant, and it really shouldn't have much of a bearing on your life, unless they're doing something like what Michael was talking about, where they are involving other agencies and are really making your life a living hell. Still, the black hole thinking is a way to deal with it. It's just harder because now you have constant reminders that are serious affecting you. And Debbie, I'd love to hear your opinion on that. What's your take on that?
Of being able to forgive yourself?
Yeah, I mean, whenever somebody is, you know, basically are worried about their actions on how they've interacted with their ex.
You know, one of the things that you could do is make a bullet point list to yourself of the things that you've, you know, some tactics you've tried. Well, I don't know if tactics is the right word, but you can call it mistakes or things that you've tried, and what was the outcome. Say, this is what I did, this was the outcome. Number 2, this was what I tried, this is what the outcome was. And then ask yourself, well, what was my motivation behind that? And then when you this has helped me. So I look back at why I did that, and sometimes it was simply because I was a little insecure, and I kept, but at the same time hopeful. So I would tell myself, well, if I try, it's sort of like you're trying to do the same thing but in different ways, and you're getting the same result until you back up and go, you know, that didn't work, but you know that's okay. But I like what Dwayne said about how you learning to let things go. It's not easy at first, but when you do, you feel like this weight is lifted. Yeah. Like, for instance, what we were talking about with the suitcases, stuff like that, it's ridiculous now. Like, that would never happen ever again. And let me, I hope this is still closely related enough to your question, but so he was going through these stages of anger and healing, and then anger and healing, that kind of thing. Anger, more anger. And so he had reached a certain point before I had ever had a face-to-face with his ex. And then this was hard on Dwayne too. So then all of a sudden I had an experience. Now I had to go through all the stages, except for that it wasn't a relationship the way he had, obviously, but I remember Dwayne taking me aside and going, Debbie, I've the things that you're feeling right now, and then, so it was very interesting because before I was trying to console him and work it through with him, like, okay, Dwayne, let's talk about this, right? Right, yeah. And then I had my own firsthand experience, and I was like, whoa. Yeah, and actually it's funny, well, not funny, but it wasn't funny, funny. When you mention that, because, I mean, there was a period of time where I'm like, look, I've moved past this. I can't go back down this road. Right. Because what had happened is the ex had switched
targeting me, started targeting Debbie and triangulating the kids with us. So she was feeling the way I was feeling early on. I mean, that resentment and that bitterness and that anger and you just want to hold the person accountable and have some justice. And it was tough because I had moved past that, and then I was being drugged back into it. And I just want to say, I see there's a bunch of questions, so I'm populating them in the slides, so we'll hit them in a minute. I think we're about done with that. I'm not.
Right. I forgot to mention though that the things that came up because of my relationship with Dwayne and what he's going through has actually opened up wounds from the past, and he and I realized that we have childhoods that parallel one another. First of all, we're both the same age, just to say, we're not saying their ages, but we were born 7 weeks apart. But anyway, our family situations have several similarities, and so there are many things that I pretty much buried away. And so when I was with him and he was going through this trauma, and then I felt like I was going through a trauma, then it brought up things from my past, and I said, wait a minute, I have to work through some things in my life as well. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm really not. I am saying that's a good thing, because now I have the opportunity to go back and heal things that should have been healed. I pretty much buried them. I think it's the best way to explain it. I sort of just walked away and said, oh, that's the past, and walked away, and I never really dealt with some of the things. So
and I know I talk about that a lot with that you have to actually deal with it, otherwise you really don't heal from it. Right. So Michael says it was 5 years ago. Hey Michael, how are you doing now? And I know you earlier you had said that your ex probably feels that victorious because she's broken you, but are you? I mean, have you made your peace with this? I mean, I don't know how you can whenever this happens to one of your kids, but. Oh, Taylor, I saw your comment. It's in the queue. I'm going to hit it in a minute. I'm going to hit Angel's first because she had asked it first, and then you're the next one. So on that, what I'm going to do now is pull up Angel's question, and then Angel says, I notice that I'm sometimes waiting for my boyfriend to show the same behaviors like I'm always on the defense. How can I change that? So what I would say on that, if I'm reading that correctly, is you have to get to the point where you and this is okay. So this is where the absolute thinking is important, because you say to yourself, your ex is toxic, or they're a narcissist, or they're borderline, or they're comorbid with borderline and narcissistic personality disorder traits. And I know it's hard, when you're judging somebody, but you just like, okay, this is who they are and it's done. And then when you start doing that, then everything that they do, and this is what I had to do with the situation with my ex, because when she would do things like, that would appear nice, then I would, I'd start questioning myself. I was like, man, am I really dealing, kind of like what you're talking about that. And the way you deal with that is you just make it absolute. You're like, nope, they're toxic. They don't need to be in my life. It doesn't matter whether they buy me a ton of roses, or they send over food, or, they send a nice note, or whatever. Remember what the reality of the relationship was. Remember how you felt. And I was thinking about this the other day. Remember how you felt in the relationship, so that you don't lose sight of that, because otherwise your mind starts, like what you're talking about. You start going, well, they're not doing those behaviors now. They're not, he's not, he's acting nice, or he's being attentive, or he's remembering certain things that he never would remember. It's all, the problem with a narcissistic type or toxic person is it's all manipulation. It's all for effect. It's all to try to suck you back in to be a supply for him again. So hopefully, Angel, that helps you. You have any comment you want to mention on that, Debbie?
No, I'm not at this.
Okay.
Let's go on to the...
All right. So so now I'm going to hit over to Taylor's question. Okay. And we'll go to Chrome. All right. Taylor says, how does the court award cost? Me and my wife have legally aid government paid lawyers. It depends. Because you don't legally, I don't know, you could do that. That's interesting. So you have, Are you in the U.S. or are you in a different country, Taylor? Let me swing back over here and get over to the comments so I can see what you're saying there. Oh, Josh Penn's on. Hey, Josh. Says, absolutely try to suck us back into the sweet, mean cycle. The abuse they absolutely have to get one over on us repeatedly. If you guys haven't checked out Josh's channel, he's got a channel where he talks about his experience. So you guys should check him out as well. David Steckley's online. So welcome. Good morning to you, David. And let's see. I'm going to see what other people had said to Taylor. Did I miss part of your question, Taylor? Because I only see the one question. How does are you worried because they're trying to award costs on you or see? Okay, in my situation, they did initially. Her attorney, my ex's attorney, asked for court costs. Now, in every jurisdiction is a little bit different. And where I was at, what my attorney told me says typically where we're at, this court will award $2,000 to the other parent. Or to the, so if it's, whatever it is, it's generally just $2,000. Now it could be more. I mean, you could get stuck paying the entire thing. You could, or you could get paid nothing. I mean, it's hard to say. It really depends on the court and what the judge does. That's what's really scary about a lot of stuff is the judges have, almost not complete autonomy because you can appeal things, but then you have to do it. Like if you guys check out Alex's channel, he talks about that where he's done a lot of appeals whenever the judge didn't rule in his favor and was able to not attack it, but basically approach it on, I guess merit maybe is the right word. Okay, anyway, so if you haven't seen Alex's channel, I would definitely check it out. So Taylor, okay, so you're in Canada. I'm worried they might. I honestly, Taylor, I am not sure about Canada. So I know from what I've heard, Canada has some, pretty not so great laws. So I don't know. I mean, it's hard to say. So Taylor says, I find that if they award her with me paying, I will go down financially and can't give my daughter the best I could have. That's a really great point. And what I would say on that is, because I was frustrated with that myself. I mean, and Debbie can attest to this, I was so angry with how much I had to pay my ex, and what I wasn't able to do with the kids. Every time something would come up where I wanted to do something with them, and I couldn't, you remember that, right?
Absolutely.
And what I would say on that is it really is one of those things where it's tough because you get to the point where you're just angry, right? It's like, seriously, I've been financially destroyed. This person isn't even doing anything for our kids, and now I can't do what I want to do with the kids. And honestly, what I would say on that is hopefully it doesn't happen to you, right? But if it does, don't let it destroy you. Remember, their tactic is to break you. What I did in the early stages of this is I used that mantra basically. You are not going to break me. To stay focused, to not fall apart. And it was tough. Because there were times where it was pretty damn close. And it's weird because I look at my situation now. And yeah, things have changed a little bit because the kids have, they're not in daycare anymore, so I'm not paying for that. My oldest has dropped off, so I'm not paying child support on him. So yeah, things have gotten a little bit better, but for the most part, it's the same thing. And I will tell you that whenever things are really frustrating, and I'm like, whenever, you're rolling up to payday and you're not sure, like this last week, it was like, man, I hope to God the rent check doesn't clear before I get paid. And every time that happens, I start getting frustrated and irritated about this whole situation because I'm looking at how much money I'm paying her, how she's never able to do anything, never has money for nothing. And it starts to get on you. But on that, Taylor, just even if it happens, just, the thing and you're talking about, you can't give your daughter the best that you could have. The best you can give your daughter is time with you. That relationship, because that's priceless. People who have all the money in the world can have crappy relationship with their kids. it's frustrating when someone's taking your money and you're not able to do things. But at the end of the day, the really important part is that relationship with your daughter, with your kid, and building that. I mean, it's like over the break, I mean, Debbie brought over this silly little game that's like little rings that you flick and whatever. It's just an old time game.
I think it's called Crokinole.
Crokinole
Or something. Sorry, but it's just a simple game.
Yeah, simple game. I mean, it's had it for a while. And I've been playing around with the kids, and it's like, the girls. My son doesn't. He wants to play Xbox. He doesn't want to play that. But I mean, it's like we're making these memories. We're making that thing, and it cost. Well, okay, the game cost something when she got it, but I mean, it's like it's a sunk cost. I mean, we have it. I mean, right. and that's really that's what's really important. And I get what's tough. I mean, I get it's tough because I've really struggled with that myself.
Mm-hmm. Is there any way I can piggyback on that briefly?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I'm actually hoping that in the future, Dwayne could put some videos together on just some parenting tips for those who are living on much less money than they're used to. Because, my goodness, he does some wonderful, his ideas. I mean, he and I both contribute ideas, of course, but he does these really cool activities with his kids that, using equipment that he already has or a game that he already has. And this is building relationship, because here's the thing. When the children are older, they are more likely to remember fondly, these really, the time spent and the bond made more so than the money spent. Because when they're kids, they don't understand that money is, what does that mean to them? They haven't earned money, so exactly. It doesn't mean anything to them. What means to excuse me, he one of the things that he does is creative days, and all of his, and this includes his oldest, so all of them are talented. I mean, each one, himself and his children all have their own talent. Some are writer, they like to write, they like to draw. And he says, okay, everyone's going to go to our little corners of the house for a while, and we're all going to put something together. One person might put a cartoon strip together. One person will make write a short story. And then at the end of the day, they come back and they share it with each other, and then they give positive feedback. And and Dwayne was just like, no big deal. And I'm like, Dwayne, do you realize how awesome this is? I mean, there are families that they're like, okay, here's your video game, here's your whatever, go to your room and that's it. No, this is like building. It's like it's a self-esteem building. It's relationship building, and so that did not require money. And I'm going to give you an example because I have children as well. So I for several years did not have a lot of money. Here's something that we used to do. Instead of just watching TV and just, that's all we do. Instead of just watching TV, we would turn it off for a while and we would do our own thing. Like, I would say, hey, if we were doing a commercial, what kind of a commercial would we do? Like to make it funny, we'd come up with our own little pretend commercials, our own jokes, and we would just laugh and laugh and laugh. You know what? That didn't cost anything. So that's something in the future. I think that sounds like he agreed. He should put some things together. And it's just another way of, it's perception. He talks about perception is key, right? And not focusing so much on the, nobody wants to live on less money, but in the end, I know that his kids are going to go, gosh, Dad, that was so cool the way you used to write stories. And that's really the key, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, and like she said, it doesn't really take money. It's tough because in the beginning stages of this, you're so irritated and bitter and angry what the ex is able to get through or get away with that it's hard to lose sight. And this is where I talk about those minor victories or those micro victories. And that's, I think a lot of times, especially in the midst of this, we lose sight of it. So I noticed, I'm trying to think, someone else had asked about what the channel was. What she was talking about, she was saying, or Debbie was talking about me making a video about how to do stuff on a budget. Now I have kind of done it a little bit, but that's definitely a really good idea. So let me check the comments and see where we're at.
I see Josh Penn says, any excuse to interfere. They are envious of a true connection to our kids that they don't have. Don't lose that connection. Nurture it. I can't even, from the I can't read that word. Spectate? Anyways, yeah, exactly. And Josh is right on that. I mean, it's, you know, and see, and that's the other thing is keep in mind that when you start building your relationship with your kids and when your ex realizes it, they're going to ramp up what they're doing. It's just, it's inevitable. That's where in the video I was talking about, was it yesterday? When they think that they're not winning or they think that you're moving on, they are going to do everything to try to suck you back down. So I saw that Angela was online. So welcome, Angela. Glad you could jump on. Dee Dee Neary is also online. It says we have had game nights for a few months. Yeah, game nights are awesome. And when I mentioned, I told you guys before that, you know, we used to do just hide and seek when there was nothing in there. Let's see. Okay, I'm going to try to scroll around. Now, I don't know if I missed another question. I think we're good on the questions. If I did, as I've mentioned before, if I do miss anything, just remind. Some people were doing it, and I appreciate you doing that because when you do, then I can actually search through it. And actually, it's kind of easier when there's someone else here, so I can actually, you know, put her on camera and actually go through comments, which is kind of cool. Averlon B's on, so I don't think I said welcome to the live show, but welcome to the live show. David Steckley's on. She bought a new house with boyfriend, new truck. I'm like me. Leave me the heck alone. Obviously, you're not happy with the relationship because you won't stay out of mine. That's pretty funny. Yeah, and you know what? That's a good point too. Is you have to remember whenever the ex is. This is why the black hole thinking is so critical. Because if your ex is doing, it doesn't matter. If they're not doing stuff with the kids, you're going to be annoyed. If they're having a better life, it's really going to tick you off. Our quote unquote better life. It doesn't matter. You know, I mean, the nirvana that we're trying to strive for is that your ex, which would be annoying, and this may be triggering, if your ex won the lottery, who gives a crap, right? You stay the hell out of my life, leave me alone, and you know, it's a hard lesson to learn, and it's a hard place to get there. Sophie's on. I haven't seen you in a while, and you have a question, so let me try to get to it. Okay, my little searchy thing's not working right. Whoops, let me go back. Maybe I had to scroll down. Where? I see that, but I don't see it. Oh, there it is. Okay. All right. Whoa. I'm trying. Okay. You guys are typing a lot, so I'm trying to fight around it to grab it. So, okay, so we did cover Taylor's. Taylor, let me know if that covered what you were. I mean, I know if I missed what you're talking about, please let me know and we can readdress it. Let me duplicate this and just go paste. Let me make sure I got that. Okay, so Sophie's question is, Debbie, did you have experience with narc people in any situation, or how much of Dwayne's explaining his situation early in the relationship helped you understand his situation with X? So ponder that for a moment, and then
it's a two-parter.
Yep, two-parter.
Okay.
Let me do this. So
his anger, you know, coming through, like, please excuse me for clearing my throat. So the anger that came through once I was introduced to the kids, and then the aftermath that followed with the ex, that part wasn't the part that was complete. Well, that was eye-opening as far as, oh boy, this is going to be a roller coaster.
Yeah.
What really got me thinking about not only what was going on with him and what it meant in my own life as well, is when he started going to therapy himself. And, and he's told that story about how he began, it was pointed out to him that he should take a look at, was it the symptoms of narcissist? Is that how it went? Did she tell you to?
Yeah. What happened?
Or she told you what it was, the symptoms and.
Yeah. Well, what it was is I was circling the toilet bowl. I mean, that was really a rough time in our relationship and just in general. I mean, I was not doing well. And this is where I was going to therapy like once a week. And that's when the therapist said, this was after we had tried EMDR.
Oh, right.
And I wasn't able to do that. But shortly after that, that's when the therapist had said, I've never diagnosed your ex. I've only talked to her one time. She hadn't seen her. It sounds like she potentially could have narcissistic personality disorder. And that changed everything. That was
game changer. But for him and for me, and this is how, so he started researching it and the light bulb went out, on brightly.
Yeah.
And it was such a relief for Dwayne because he knew he couldn't solve everything, but at least it gave him a framework.
Yeah.
He didn't really have anything to grasp onto. He's going to therapists and like, what does this mean? Why am I struggling? And so then after that eye opener for Dwayne, as you can imagine, I started looking into it as well and thinking back on relationships I've had. And you know what? This doesn't necessarily mean romantic relationships. We're talking childhood. We're talking in the workplace. I am sure there's somebody on the live stream right now who has had maybe a boss or a colleague that tried to sabotage them at work, or you couldn't figure out what their problem was. They nice words sort of were coming out of their mouth, but then underneath there was a cutting edge to it, and what is wrong with this? You just couldn't put your finger on it.
Josh made a comment. He says that that moment we realize we might not be the crazy ones, and that's exactly it's spot on.
So even though this channel is, focused more on the relationship part of it, but this realization can help you in all areas of your life, your workplace, out in society, your church, your social groups, it helps. Now, of course, you never ever go up to someone and point your finger and say, well, you look, this is what I think. No, of course, because for those of us who have, I haven't done, we don't, but I can't even imagine doing that because that's not going to accomplish anything whatsoever. I'm just saying, just for our own knowledge so we can understand. And you know what? It helps us deal better with people like this. And in fact, for those of us who are empaths, which I am going to assume that we are
most are.
Yeah, most of us are empaths.
Sophie says, so true, Debbie, thanks.
Absolutely.
And yes, narcs everywhere. Yeah.
Right. So. But see, so what we're learning right now, the skills that we're learning can help us in all aspects of our life. That's what I'm trying to say.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So the next time you have someone in the workplace who behaves in this way, we could do that thing, take a deep breath and think, okay, so this is something that you're not going to fix. You're not going to change. We cannot fix other people. We can only work on ourselves and how we react and how we deal with it. And so that doesn't mean we're not going to have bad days, but boy, it sure is a lot better. So I have to give Dwayne thanks for this. He went through a rough time and I was there kind of going through it. But see, now we are both healing because of it.
Josh makes a comment. He says, the biggest thing I learned was to watch what they do, and this is for anybody, instead of just taking their word for it. And Michael, I see you wrote, and I saw this before the other day, you had written this, that you said you lost, excuse me, I lost my job because of my depression, so humiliating, and you had your truck seized. I saw, when I was going through the replay, I saw you posted that, so I apologize I mentioned that. So, it's frustrating because it's like, we have to I don't know, kind of go through some of the worst things we have to accept, right? And I didn't lose my job, excuse me, but I did have to step down from the position I was in. And Debbie can relate to that. I was really not happy about that. There was a lot, I spent a lot of time just bitter and angry about the position that I spent my entire career to get to. and then having to lose it because of all the stress and the crap that was happening with the ex. So, I mean, it's just, one of the things we have to go through on this is learning to let go, reprioritize what's important, and not give our ex, give the situation and what happens too much power, even though it is devastating. I mean, right. It's really frustrating.
Right. And even though this is a forum that people can vent on, and we do, and it feels good, even though that is true, what's great about this channel, I have to say, is that I see a lot of positivity, and I see a lot of people helping each other. And so I don't see this as an angry channel. I don't see this as a channel of, if you're bitter and ticked off, this is the place to go. I mean, yes, but if you are in that stage, that doesn't mean we don't want you here to start, of course we want you, we're in all different stages, the shock stage, the anger stage, the sadness stage, whichever.
I see, Michael. I didn't realize this. You say you're a professional driver. So now I see. Now I get the significance of that, because I was just thinking, you got your Chevy 1500 or 25, whatever, repossessed. But no, you're talking about your work truck, I think is what you're saying, was repossessed. I'm sorry, man. The company I was working for thought I was a liability. That's really tough, because a lot of places, they don't care about what's going on in your personal life. And when it starts to bleed over, they will have no problem, firing you, basically. I'm really lucky in the job I have that I have flexibility on that. I think I saw another question. So let me, M. Dylan Blair. Let me grab, whoa, dang it. I'm doing the comment shuffle thing, and I'm going to duplicate this. So give me a second to do my copy and paste. And on that, M. Dylan Blair, welcome to the channel. Welcome to the live stream. Forgot to welcome you on that. So let me pull up Keynote here, and says, Deb, how do you interact with Dwayne's ex for the children now? My new significant other's second interaction involved my ex threatening to murder him if involved himself in family matters with his wife. That is just...
First of all, wow. So I have to say, wow.
Yeah, that's amazing.
I am actually happy to see that question. The only thing is, I really don't think you guys want to sit here with me and listen to the long version of that answer, but I'll do my best to be concise with it. I have really had to how do I say this? Walk a tightrope. And so, but not just me, the children. And I'm going to explain a little bit how I feel bad for the kids, because what they learned early on, that it's, he and I and 3 kids, if we do something fun, the children had to learn right away that if they go back to their mom's house and say anything positive about our day, we go do something fun, whatever it is, okay? It really doesn't matter what it is. We go do, it doesn't matter if it's a park, it doesn't matter, whatever we go. If they say anything positive, then his ex would find a way to diminish the experience, to make it less good than it was, or to find some subtle way to put it down. And so over time, the children have had to learn to make a decision. They have to make a decision. What do they tell their mom and what they don't? Now, I find this fascinating, because I think it was about a year ago or so, we went and did something over the holiday, and as it turned out, they had a great time.
Yep.
They didn't breathe a word.
Yeah, you're right about that.
They didn't breathe a word. And he and I had to talk about it and said, wow, they know that they basically get punished in some way if they say something good about me. Oh, heaven forbid, they can't say anything good about me, because she takes it as a narcissistic injury to herself. And by the way, I'm not diagnosing anyone. I have to do this disclaimer. So I am not diagnosing anyone, I'm just saying. But I feel bad for the kids. They have to walk their own tightrope. What can we say at mommy's house? What can we say at daddy's house? Who's going to get angry if we say this or that or the other? So that's
and one of the other things on that is we've had experiences where we'll do something and the kids will be like, man, that was great. That was, an awesome time. And they'll go back, and then it'll transition back to their moms and they come back and then it wasn't an awesome time. Yeah, it was okay. Right. I mean, it's like completely gets diminished, on what happens. I mean, it's bizarre. I mean, there is the whole thing with the beach, and then
right.
I mean,
if you go to the beach, then they kept you out in the sun too long. If you go out in the rain, they'll say, oh, you got all wet. You're probably going to catch a cold. You're probably going to get sick.
You're going to get pneumonia.
So it doesn't matter if it's sunny, if it's rainy, if it doesn't matter what it is. So they have learned that if they have a really fantastic, great time, it's better just to not say anything at all. And by the way, just to make this clear, we are not telling the children to do the absolute. Oh, no. We are not. This is what they have to do just to survive these two different households.
You can see Josh says, so true. My kids definitely know that about keeping things private, and it's tough. And the thing on that with what Debbie was just talking about, I'll do this a second ago is, you know what, guys, here's the thing. No matter what you do, your ex is going to denigrate you on it. So if you tell them not to say anything, then you're telling the kids to lie or whatever. I mean, and this is where you have to get to the point where you just don't give a crap about what the ex is doing or saying. Just focus on your kids. I've talked before about getting thrown on because I've had this happen a lot where, like I was mentioning, where, we'll do something and it'll be a decent experience. And then, my middle daughter is notorious for throwing me under the bus, but I get it, right? I mean,
she loves you, Dwayne. She does.
Oh, yeah.
But see, she gets something from her mom that there's almost like this reward she gets. If she throws daddy under the bus, mommy loves that and gives her some. We don't know what the reward is, some kind of an emotional reward. I don't know what it is, but as we've talked about before, they crave attention from the parent who doesn't give them very much attention. So if they come over there and have some juicy gossip, it's not even that big of a deal. But, oh, man, like that one trip that we were talking about, I'm sure she got some kind of reward for telling mommy the truth about where they were thinking about going and all that. But I have some excellent advice. Please, I have excellent advice for those of you who have already had your vacations sabotaged. And he and I have been doing great since we started doing this. So, okay, this is going to be hard for some of you who really like to plan definite things where you buy tickets and you can't get out of it and like it's a cruise or something or whatever. But I highly recommend to choose First of all, don't talk about the activities. Don't talk about.
Oh yeah, definitely
make sure that there's surprises and stuff like that. But try your best to plan activities that has the potential to be moved to another date if the other person finds a way to sabotage it, because we've done that and it worked beautifully. I have found several. Oh man, he had a vacation week planned, and that is supposed to be sacred. We never touch her week. She doesn't supposed to touch our week, and she found a way to come up with some long lost friend of one of the kids saying that, the only time they can come out and visit is during your vacation week, Dwayne. And so we're going to need the kids during his vacation week. If we were to try to do the opposite, it would never work. So do you know how we got around it? And I'm pretty happy about this. Well, how we got around it is the things that I helped him plan for that week. We worked together on this. Were all things pretty much that you can kind of move it around a little bit. We went on a river rafting trip that was for beginners, and we made sure that was something that if you needed to move the date, you could. Yeah. And there was this really cool cat cafe we went to, and if we wanted to, we could move the date. They did not have a cancellation policy. We could have said, we can't go Tuesday, we can go Friday. Yeah. If you do that kind of a thing, you can relax a lot more. You can really enjoy the planning of your vacation time, because just in case they come up with some last minute emergency, like, you know what, I'm not even going to say what it is. You can use your imagination. If there is any way possible
for them to sabotage it,
for them to make sure that you cannot take one of the children because this important appointment and you have to, you're a terrible parent if you don't let them go to this appointment. It doesn't matter what it is. So
well, and then the flip side to this is that we've had to not tell the kids what we're doing.
Right.
And like the river rafting trip that she's talking about. Well, it's anyways. We didn't tell the girls. I mean, because for whatever reason, I can't remember Devin. Oh crap, my son wasn't with me, and he didn't go. But the girls were stressed going up there. I mean, they were like, "What are we doing? What are we doing? What are we doing?" And I was really worried that it was going to destroy it. But they had a great time. I mean, that was one of those. And we, if you guys remember, I think I may have posted way back when a time lapse of a river with my youngest doing, basically playing around in the dirt and stuff like that. Yeah. That was after that. I mean, we did the river rafting thing. Well, actually I didn't because my back, but then we went out to dinner and then we just hung out at the river and just,
right. But Dwayne, do you remember how she tried to sabotage it even though we kept it a secret?
Oh yeah.
So what she did is that she kept berating the children to tell her where we were going.
Oh my God.
How come your dad won't tell you? That's not very nice, or whatever it is that she said. Like,
yep.
And then his daughter was saying, "Dad, we're getting stressed out. We really need to know where we're going." And then one of the excuses is, "Well, Mommy needs to know because if there's an emergency, Mommy needs to know where you're going just in case that she needs to come pick us up." Yeah, do you remember that?
I remember that.
My eyes got so big. I'm like, "Are you kidding me?"
Yeah, that was funny. It's like, well, if
there's an emergency, we will call 911. Or we will call one of whoever we need to call, but
I forgot about that.
So
it wasn't funny at the time, guys.
No, it wasn't. So leading up to that, there was because we need to be honest with you, because this isn't going to be easy, even if you do our suggestion here.
Yeah.
They will still try to find a way, because no matter what move you make, they can find an angle with the kids to make it seem like we're doing something wrong or we're deceptive. Oh, you're not telling the kids where you're going. How awful.
Yep.
And we ended up making the right decision, but man, I will admit that all the way up there it was stressful, because it's like, well, how come Mommy can't know what we're going to do? And then afterwards it was fine. It was fine. So, right. So please caution against spending all of your money on non-refundable tickets to Hawaii or something. Yeah. Oh, please be careful. If you want to wait till they're 18 to do that, all power to you. But if you have somebody in your life that will do anything to make sure that you can't go.
Yeah. And on that, I mean, and I have one question queued up from, a good one. So I'll grab that in a second. And I also want to say, I think it was, I think it was Josh who made a comment a little while ago. Let me see if I can find that. This was really, says, Josh said, what bothers me is when the narc speaks for the kids, saying our son is really upset about something I did. Then, when I talk to my son, he's like, "No, Dad, that didn't bother me." And they'll take anything out of context. And I mean, sometimes our kids will say stuff or insinuate certain things because the narc parent, that's what they want to hear. Right. I mean, that's how they get, the attention and conditional love from the other parent. So I wanted to cover that. So let me grab, I think I have it queued up. Let me, okay. Yeah, I do. So, Godonwa says, question, how do you reconcile not getting justice with, not continuing to be a doormat? I feel like the best strategy is to let them live in a fantasy, which keeps you the subordinate stewing. Yeah, that's a really great question. And it's one I struggled with a lot, to be honest, because especially in the video that I posted yesterday, I guess Friday morning, I had a big problem with that because I was stewing and I was irritated and I didn't want to feel like they were winning or she was winning. And what I'll say on that, good one, Wah, is you get to a point after a period of time where it's like, whatever they think, if they think that they're winning or whatever, it doesn't matter. And sometimes, I mean, I've done this to where it's like, if she thinks that if my ex thinks that she's winning, it actually makes my life easier. And but the thing on that is, what I'll say on that is, that was not a overnight thing. That was something that took a while. I mean, it wasn't like, hey, I'm just going to snap my fingers and, she doesn't bother me anymore. No, we're talking about years to get to this. And Debbie went through some of this. I mean, where we're at right now, at the beginning stages, a lot of what you guys are talking about, she experienced firsthand with me being, just angry and bitter. So it's like, I would imagine, Debbie, you probably, from the person I was then at that time to where I am now is like night and day.
It's night and day.
Yeah. So on that good one, what I would say, just give yourself time. What I'm talking about, getting to that place that I'm talking about right now, it doesn't happen overnight. You have every reason to be angry, every reason to be bitter and just frustrated. But it's one of those things that as you heal from this and you understand, the nuances of narcissistic abuse or toxic persons, toxic people, they don't reason and think along the same ways. So, and then, it's really weird because I talk about this a lot where when you let some of this stuff go, initially for me, the problem was like, oh, hell no, you're not getting away with it. That ain't happening. You're not, no, I'm holding you accountable. You realize that when you're letting some things go, you're not giving them a pass. You're giving you a pass. You're giving yourself some peace. And that is super, super critical. So let me see. I think I saw some comments fly up on the screen. Let's see what we got. Sophia says, so true, Josh. Mine traveled 5 hours to surprise our daughter at school lunch. He never did that when we were married. Yeah, they'll do crazy stuff like that. Josh says, Dwayne, this really good practical advice. Love the format with both of you. Oh, thanks. Hey, somebody else had asked how to set up a channel or whatever. Email me directly, and I'll absolutely help. I think, and it was a little while ago. One thing I would say on it, if you want to do a channel, the biggest thing is just starting. This isn't easy to do, and as soon as you just put a camera on yourself and stuff like that, it's really bizarre. But just start throwing it out there and learn and practice and just, go for it. However, the only caveat I would say is if you are in the midst of a custody battle, court, or anything like that, do not do this. If you're in the middle of court, this is not a good idea because it's public and it will more than likely be used against you. So be careful of that. So let me check to see. God, we are just flying by.
There was a question about whether or not because I can understand people wanting to know how could we be talking so freely like this, and what is your ex, Dwayne,
Who is it that said that?
I saw it in the comments a little. You have to kind of scroll back. Someone said that they were concerned about your ex on there.
I think Shannon. Yes, I'm wondering too. Okay, so Shannon O'Brien said, yes, I'm wondering this too, Dwayne. So someone else had asked too, does your ex see your videos? How does this affect your channel? Polariverse IT Service said, does your ex see your videos on this channel? What is the reaction, or is she in the dark about it? My understanding is that she doesn't know. One of the things is I do not affiliate my full name to this site, primarily because I don't want, if on the off chance that she was to Google me, for it to come up. Now I will say with some of the interviews and stuff I've done, that's becoming easier to find me. But I don't tell the kids about this channel, even though I think a couple of them know. But I have another channel, so I do have a couple other YouTube channels. So, if it comes up that I'm doing YouTube, they can, honestly, if you search my real name, my other stuff comes up, not this. So, right. So so I don't think the ex has seen it. How does it affect my channel? Well, the main thing is I don't use, unless like I did a little while ago, I do not use anybody's names. And for the most part, I'm not sitting here I guess technically in some regards I am, telling stories about what's happened, but I'm not sitting here. This isn't hey, here's a divorced dad and I'm going to just, bash on my ex. The stories I use are more for illustration of some of the experiences that you may experience. Yeah. And some techniques on how to deal with it to keep from going crazy, to be honest.
Absolutely. This is not an anger channel. I don't see it as an anger channel. And if it was, I would not be on here commenting. And not only that, I would feel uncomfortable being associated, because I just don't feel that would be helpful.
Yeah.
So I really want something good to come out of this. I'm really glad that Dwayne started this. And actually, it's helped our relationship, because instead of just venting about his frustration, this isn't happening anymore. Instead, he's reaching out to other people, okay? So as he said, yes, we do use some examples, but this is not with the intent of trying to destroy anybody. We're trying to reach out to others so that whatever they're struggling with, they can move on from that. And it would be totally inappropriate if this were to be going on at the wrong time. As he said, if you're in the middle of a custody battle, the last thing on earth you want to be doing is could you imagine having dual channels, and you have this channel and that channel? Now, you know what? I'm going to piggyback on that, because if and when it comes down to it, and and she is, she sees it at some point, we're just going to have to cross that bridge. Well, have to cross the bridge when we come to it, because who knows? Maybe there will be a dual channel. Maybe there'll be terrible comments coming up. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I see, and this is one of the things, and this is a discussion we had when I first started this, because Debbie was really worried about me doing this, because it's like, maybe you should wait. Maybe you should wait until, the kids are 18 and everything. And at the time, it was like, you know what? I'm done putting my life on hold. I had felt for 3 to 4 years, I'm trying to remember the time frame, I guess, well, maybe it's 4 years now, that I was like in an idle, like I was not doing, I was just sitting there, just burning time. I'm just watching my life, just, nothing. I am not able to do anything. And it was driving me crazy. So this channel really helped me, it gave me an outlet. That's what I think someone just said. And it was, and I didn't care. It's like, you know what? I knew what I was going through. It was two parts. One, I wanted to do something new, right? I wanted to try to actually start doing something. The second part was I remembered what this was like and how the dark days really were. So I was like, if maybe I can communicate or articulate this situation, or somehow help somebody who may be going through, is going through the worst experience of their life, maybe my story and my presentation style, or however you want to say it, is would be a lifeline to help them through it, then it'd be worth it. So that was kind of my driving force. We were worried about it. That was one of those things whenever we first started she was really,
why we're worried about it, because we're empathetic people towards others, and neither one of us have the intent of, oh, I want my life's mission to go out and hurt other people. No, the opposite. So this is not the easiest thing, because we don't want it to look like, oh, you're just picking on this poor defenseless. No.
This poor defenseless butterfly.
That's not.
Josh had asked a question. He says, Dwayne, do you ever want your kids to see your channel when they're older? I guess technically, no. If they do see it, it's okay. This isn't one of those things where when they're 18, like when my son turned 18, I didn't give him the link. I didn't say, now son, here, go start on video 1 of 300. And I don't know how many I have now, and watch. It's, no. Do I think that they at some point they're going to find it? Yeah, probably. And it's one of those things where I'm kind of like thinking that if they find it, it could be a problem. It could be that they could potentially think that I am bashing on their mom, and that it could potentially harm my relationship. I don't think so, though, because I think my kids really understand what's going on, even though we don't talk about it. I think they know. I think most of our kids know what's really going on. So, good question, Josh.
Also, piggyback on that is that in no way whatsoever does Dwayne ever make a suggestion that children shouldn't love both parents equally.
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna and I stand by that, and so that is So that's something that I really want people to keep in mind, okay?
Yeah.
So he's not saying, you should never speak to your awful, terrible. No. Because, and you've seen him in his videos say this time and time again, children need their parents, and they want their parents. Now, we understand that in some circumstances, if it's extreme violence, or we understand that there's exceptions, but I'm saying in most other situations, of course, because you know what, the children need to work through those things as they go, and we have to give them the support all we can, but we cannot cut them off, for just no reason, just out of spite. So yes, I think it would be difficult. I think that it could be a difficulty that they have to work through, but I think, this is my opinion, is that because Dwayne has spent so much time building a solid relationship, okay, with his children, I think that even though if they have to go through that rough time, and maybe someday he's going to have to explain, look, this is the reason why this channel came about, and I'm reaching out to help people, and this is how I'm helping people. Yeah. That it may not be overnight. It might be one of those things that they have to really think about. And it, so it may take time. But he understands that. It's one of those things you're going to go through.
So hey, Josh, one thing I want to ask, because that was a great question. So what about you with your kids? So what do you think about them seeing? Because with your videos, and then. Michael Gates says, I'm at the point, oh man, it scrolled right off the screen. So let me go over here. I'm at the point myself, Dwayne, almost 2 years my life has been on hold. I've had very little contact with family and friends and have zero interest in dating. Michael, just give yourself time. One of the things that's really frustrating on this, because there's so many things that are frustrating, but one of the things is it's just how long this takes. And you feel like you're just trapped. You have to. I was talking to someone the other day, and this is kind of like whoops, wrong button. This is, it's like, okay, when you break a bone or you have a physical injury, you have the injury, you can't, if your arm is broken, you can't just get over it. That was an email. I was emailing somebody. You're going to have to get it repaired, and it's going to hurt, and it's going to, that healing time where the wound is healing is going to be painful. And then after that, when you're going through the physical therapy to work on it, if you don't go through the physical therapy, you're going to lose motion, and there's going to be a consequence physically from it. And you're going to have to go through the physical therapy and whatnot to rebuild rebuild from that injury. Emotional injuries are the same. So remember that. So, when you're dealing with this and it's taking time, and you feel like, dang it, why can't I do it? And people do this with physical injuries too. They'll hurt themselves, and the doctor say, now, because I think I did something like this, don't pick anything up. And then you're like, oh, I can do it. I'm feeling a little bit better. And then you hurt yourself, right? So give yourself the time to heal. So, and I know it, Michael, I know what you're talking about, because, oh my God, and that was a driving force on this when I started this, whenever Debbie was like, well, maybe you should wait. And I'm like, I'm done waiting. I'm not waiting anymore. I want to do this. I feel passionate about it. I'm going for it. Initially, it was going to be a podcast. It wasn't going to be a YouTube channel. I kind of
pushed him a little bit towards the YouTube. So you can blame that part on me. I wanted him to get in front of the camera, and he was like, no, I don't want to be in front of the camera.
It's funny because I don't like being in front.
No, but he does great in front of the camera, and I'm the one who ends up being extra camera shy. So go figure on that one.
The funny part on that, because initially, like I said, this was going to be, I bought all this stuff to do a podcast because this was going to be a podcast. I'm like, I don't want this mug, on screen. And she goes, well, how do people find podcasts? Everyone looks for everything on YouTube. And it was like,
including me. So I look for things on YouTube.
And it was funny because I was like, oh yeah. And the crazy part is prior to that, she has, I'm not a spring chicken, but, she knew me post divorce and everything. And when I was living in this idle mode, and when I started this thing, I just went 9,000 miles an hour. She was kind of like, what?
Put a lot of work into it, which I do appreciate. And the support system that's being built because of it is wonderful. So let me give a shout out, because a lot of people don't know that I do read the comments a lot, and a lot of times I'll be, not in the conversation, but right along there with you, and I see you guys out there helping each other. So shout out to all of you who've been sticking with it. So while he's talking or whatnot, I can see on the screen that people are reaching out and helping each other. And if somebody says something that maybe is a little off, in left field, someone else will reel them back in, and you guys just work on it. And I really appreciate.
Oh, this is such a phenomenal community. I am like, I am. I was talking with David from CNXG the other day, and we chat on the phone every once in a while when we can. Sometimes the schedule is tough, but he was talking about some of the interaction with some of his subscribers, and guys. I am super grateful. You guys are an amazing group of people. Every time we have someone new that comes in, you welcome them with open arms. Over the year and 7-8 months that this channel has been going, I've had a handful of trolls, and even them sometimes it's like really benign. It hasn't been really over the top. So I really appreciate that. So I want to cover, because I asked Josh a question. So, let me go backwards. Let's see here. Where is it? Let me go back one more, because I want to read your comments, Josh. And I want to get to the, okay. So you had said, absolutely. When the kids ask me if they can do something, I ask them, what did their mom say? And I support her decision if it's best for the kids, which is the way you are supposed to do things. So that's awesome, Josh. It's amazing how they don't do that. He says, my kids know about my channel, but only that it's a divorce recovery channel, not a narc abuse channel. They show little interest in it. Yeah, that's pretty funny. But yeah, see, that's the thing, right? I mean, you cover that, and then they don't. That's the right way to deal with it. Because interesting story, my daughter wanted me to sit down with her and watch some of the reality shows that show narc women acting out. She would look at me and say, what do you think, Dad? And I think it was my daughter's way of saying saying this is what mom is like, and I get it. She's 18. Yeah, sometimes, you got to just listen to I think a lot of times we want a solid answer. We want a black and white. But there's a lot of nuanced stuff going on there, and you have to keep your mind open, or your eyes open, or your ears open to make sure you hear that. And then Josh says, my belief is that the kids will reach out indirectly because they do want a good relationship with both parents. Yeah, see, that's the hard part about this, is that we have to realize or remember that it is the other. I mean, even though we may think that that the person is toxic and not, it'd be better if they weren't necessarily impacting our kids or being in their lives. Bottom line is, it's the other parent. If your kids ultimately decide and realize that themselves, that's fine. But you just have to kind of like roll with it. So Cindy Todd says, let's see what, Dwayne, thanks, Debbie. I couldn't continue my healing without your platform and support here. Keep up the great work. Oh, thanks, Cindy. I appreciate that. Filmmaker Media, I've seen your name scrolling up. I haven't welcomed you, so welcome to the live stream. If you ask something, just remind me or throw a question on it so I can pull it up. Been there. I haven't seen you in a while, so welcome. So let's see. And we're kind of rolling up. Oh, we're at 9 o'clock. So I tell you what, guys, because this is one of those things we don't normally do. And this is technically our anniversary weekend. So as soon as we're done with this, we're going to be hitting the road. Well,
but if there's any other questions for me, because I'm not usually on.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. If you guys have some stuff that you want to ask Debbie, or you want us to talk about, please throw it out here, because she's, what is it, 8 hours away? I mean, we don't normally get to do this. And a lot of times when she comes down on the weekends, it's when the kids are with me. So it's not like we're going to be able to do this. So this is a unique opportunity. So if you can, if you have something else you want to ask, or you want her to cover or talk about, or you're curious about, please throw it out there. And then we'll go through that, and then we'll start to wrap things up. And as we're doing that, because I know the viewer count's going down a little bit, if you haven't hit that like button, please do that, because that always helps the YouTube analytics. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please subscribe. And I know I'll go through this spiel later, but I just figured, at the 2-hour mark, I might as well throw it out there. So if anyone, like I said, if anyone has anything you want us to cover, you know what, because I know we had some questions we were looking at. Let me double check let me pull or try to get over there and see what else the topics we were talking about. Did we cover that one? Kind of. Actually, I think you did talk about it.
You know what? I think because I wasn't sure we were going to get back to that question, I think I might have piggybacked on the trigger, how the situation triggered my own memories, our family parallels.
Yeah, I think
where we both had mothers that knew how to go poke, and we both had fathers that had a tendency to have a little bit of a temper. And so the mothers knew how to trigger the fathers and how to
push buttons,
change things so that it looked like one parent was, and
I think we have to pause for a second to cover filmmaker Media's comment, because I don't know if you can see it on the screen. Observation: Debbie, you are beautiful. That's all. Only meant as a compliment.
Yes. That is really sweet.
Oh, thanks for that.
That's really sweet. You have made awesome. My weekend, and so I appreciate that. And you know what? Let me just say, this goes along with what we talked about. Taking compliments has been difficult for me. It has been easier for me throughout my life to take an insult than a compliment. And for those of you who have experienced emotional abuse of any kind, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So, and that sounds strange, right? Because nobody wants to hear something bad about themselves, but I would get so used to these very subtle, covert put downs that it became easier to sort of absorb, like, oh, if only you wore blue instead of purple, because the purple just doesn't look, whatever, it doesn't matter what it is. So I do appreciate that. And it's not easy for me to accept a compliment, because there's a little part of me, that little part of me that is still healing, that says to me, you're not good enough.
Yeah.
He didn't really mean that comment. There's this trust too. It's like,
because everything is conditional whenever you're dealing with that. Those compliments, it's
we've gotten fake. Now, raise your hand. Not that I can see your hand, but raise your hand if you've ever had a compliment and found out it really wasn't true, that they, so
it was manipulation.
So not that one was manipulation. I'm just saying, do you see how a lifetime, decades of having someone play with your head could make it...
Filmmaker says hand raised.
Can make it difficult. And I have something to share about, I hope, Dwayne, you don't mind if I share this one thing about the beverage that you were going to share with me, remember?
Oh, yeah, no, go,
oh, my goodness.
Yeah, this is early on in the relationship.
Early on in the relationship. How does I start realizing that something wasn't quite right, even though I didn't have a label or anything like that? So I was visiting over at his place, and I don't even know what the beverage is, because that's not the part I remember, but it was, maybe it was a certain type of tea.
Or was it a food or
certain
something?
type,
I can't remember what
it was. It was a drink.
Okay.
And so he had this mug of something, and he said, well, I made this beverage, and he's leaning towards me, and he's bringing it towards me, and he goes, here, I'd really like you to try it. And then just before, as I was going to taste it, he said, you're probably really not going to like it, and you're probably going to think it's really terrible. And I put the cup down, and I said, what?
Yeah.
What?
No, this was an eye-opener for me, too.
But it wasn't just an eye-opener it was for both of us, because he caught me doing the same thing. Like, oh, I have this thing that I'd like to give you. You might not really like it, or you might not.
Yeah.
And then he said, well, what do you mean? And so we both realized that we were so accustomed.
So used to it.
So used to being put down that even though we knew that I knew that he wouldn't put me down, he knew I wouldn't put him down, but we're so programmed to be ready for the insult, be ready for that cut, be ready for that poke in the eye, that we put this guard up. We put this little shield, like, I don't want to be hurt. I don't want to be hurt. So if I go ahead and put myself down first,
right, you lessen it.
We lessen the pain, the impact. You lessen the impact of it. So I just want you to know, everyone, that we both still work on that. Honestly, I remind him, he reminds me.
Yeah, well, I mean, a lifetime of abuse you just can't erase overnight. I mean, it takes time and it takes work, right? I mean, and one of the other things I wanted to mention on this, and because I think, I mean, since you're here, and I know I've talked about this before, but and this was, and I know this had to be, and we haven't really talked. I mean, we've talked about it, but never like this. So maybe this is a bad topic, but we'll see. one of the things I really had a problem with is, I mean, Debbie treats me great, right? I mean, it's like she makes me feel like a rock star, I like to say. But
he is a rock star.
But when things, okay, so something would, like, okay, so when I would get down, I was used to how my ex would respond and belittle, continue the put downs, the subtle put downs and stuff. Mm-hmm. And she would respond in the way I always wanted people to respond, the way I always wanted my mom, my dad, my ex, my wife to respond. And you would think, or I would have thought that you doing that would have been like, oh, what a relief.
Right.
And it wasn't. It was one of those things where it was, it frickin' threw me for a loop. It actually, I mean, it was CPTSD, because I couldn't understand what it was coming from. Right. I mean,
neither could I. We'd have conversations. I said, Dwayne, what did I say wrong? And he said, you didn't say anything. And I said, and so, wow, that was an eye opener.
Oh, it was tough.
So treating someone with respect
can be a trigger.
Can trigger someone in a way that I never realized.
It made no sense, guys. And to be honest, I mean, it was, and then as I started, this would happen, and I would start feeling depressed, and I'd have all these emotions just flooding in that I didn't understand. Mm-hmm. And then I would start withdrawing. And then instead of getting angry, or instead of putting me down or anything like that, mm-hmm. She would be understanding, and it made it worse. I mean,
because he didn't understand that either. So when he needed space, and I said, you know what, you just go ahead and you need your space. Then instead of going, oh, good, she's respecting my need for space, he's like, well, no one's ever respected my need for space. Why are you respecting my need? Are you kidding me? Like, it was like this, like, what is it? What's the right analogy for that? I don't know. Anyway.
Circular do loop is what I normally call it.
I've been adapting some of his cool little vocabulary thing that he did. So how when you're with someone long enough, you start to use the same vocabulary?
Yeah.
we kind of do that sometimes. So it's amazing. So for any of you out there who have not gotten to the point where you're dating again, just try to keep that in mind, that it'll be hard to trust a compliment. Yeah. It will be easier to accept a put down. Do not go blindsided. I don't want you guys to be blindsided.
And here's the thing, and this is why it's so critically important to really heal from this and take your time. Because if you don't, and full on, like we said at the beginning of this, I don't know, maybe we didn't necessarily talk about it, but realistically, I wasn't ready. I thought I was ready. And the first 3 months that we were, or 3 to 4 months that we were going out, things were great. But I hadn't actually healed from it. All I had done was put it under, put it in the closet. I put it in, shut the door, and wasn't dealing with it. So when these things started coming up, I hadn't healed from it. See, and to be honest, I mean, we're really, I'm lucky that she stuck with me, because I think a lot, I mean, that's the thing that also messed with me. It's like, man, I mean, I'm a mess. Why are you still here? This is just chaos.
But we both benefited, Dwayne, definitely from sticking it out, because we've learned not just about each other, but about ourselves. And because of this channel, and because of reading the stories that people come in, we are learning just how this is a shared experience across all areas of, I guess, life. The world. Well, geographically speaking, and all areas of life. It sounds so cliche. Please excuse me ahead of time for saying this, but it sounds cliche. But you know how the whole I'm not alone thing. Yeah. You hear that all the time. Yeah. But it's true. Bottom line, it's true. When you speak to others about it, and you realize that, you know what, it really is a bummer, but you know what, I mean, that sounds cliche too. It's going to be okay, but
but you have to believe that.
But you have to believe it. But it's a journey. It's a process. I just want to say, it's a process, and it's not an event. Okay, that's important. This is a process, it's not like the light bulb went on, everything's great, I don't need any of you guys, whatever. I mean, at some point, you may not require a channel like this. I understand that. But you know what you can do? You can take what you've learned from all the experiences we're sharing with each other, and what I would like each and every one of you to do is that as you heal, please share these little seedlings of wisdom that you picked up and share them with other people, just word of mouth, just the things that you learn, like how to deal with A, B, C, and D.
Just the only thing I would say on that is just be careful of telling people too much about your story, because people who don't, and you guys know this, people who haven't been through this don't understand. So if somebody's going through it, like Debbie's right? I mean, if you see somebody and you see him struggling, share this information, share this channel, share, if you have another channel or another website or whatever, to try to help people, because when you're isolated on this, and when you're not, until you get the validation that this is legitimate and real, you think you're alone. You think you're going insane, and that validation that yes, this is real, yes, that behavior is real, is critical, because until I know for me, before I had that epiphany, I thought I was losing my mind. So. Yeah. Josh had said, "Are you guys long distance?" Yeah, it's an interesting question. I mean, her moving has been harder for her, because for me, we talk on the phone every day, right? I mean, we still do that. Absolutely. And we'd see each other on the weekend. I mean, sometimes we'd see each other during the week, but not very often. So in some ways it's easier for me, because my environment's the same. Now you're living up here.
So I just took, it was for a job opportunity. And since we already lived in different households anyway, it is still kind of long distance anyway, because so it's not a big change. And let me just say something about that, living separately. I think that it, honestly, with the issues, it's helped tremendously that I'm not in the home right now in the middle of, if I were to move in, I can only imagine the triangulation and everything that would be going on. Right now, we've only had to really concern ourselves with, vacation days, day trips, holidays, and that's enough on its own. But if I had day to day of that. So honestly, we've had to take things slow in that department.
Right. And I would highly encourage and recommend you guys do that. I mean, one of the things is narcissists have a tendency to try to force you to go fast. They want to get move in fast or get married fast and all this stuff. It's because they want to set those hooks. Take your time, right? If you're with somebody that it's a good, healthy relationship, you don't have to rush it. You don't have to basically sink your hooks in on it. I mean, we're 4 years, like you said, we're not, 4 years. And I would say realistically, whenever there was a time where probably things would have been a little different, we probably would end up moving in together. And I'm glad that the situation, not that it wouldn't have been great, but but for reasons that we just explained, it wouldn't have been good. And so, what's really great? Let me just tell you what I like about this. So because I don't have the everyday triangulation issues, when I get those little moments that I get to hang out with Dwayne and the kids, we really have a good time. Yeah. It's quality, and I don't always have to concern with the daily in and out stress of the triangulation or the little put downs and stuff like that. So, this isn't going to work for everyone, Dwayne. We know that. I mean, the circumstances are different. What if you guys live a block away, so you see each other more often? Well, my goodness. Yeah. But we've always had a city separating us, so I just am a little bit farther away. And there's a comment down there about me being a little nervous. Yes, of course. Are you kidding me? You should see what this looks like. There's cameras everywhere. There's cords and cables and lights and stuff. So I'll be on. Well, of course. And I was like, okay, everyone's going to tell. I was a little bit nervous. Yeah, old Chani Road says, Debbie seemed nervous at first.
Yeah.
After a couple hours, she has found her groove. The live stream is excellent to watch and rewatch later this weekend.
Yes. This is intimidating, okay? There's this camera staring right at me. And I don't see people. I see a camera. So unless you've done this yourself, I don't know if I can really explain.
Yeah, it looks common, but there is just it's a whole production. I will, you know what? If you guys haven't, I'll do it on the Facebook page, on the Dad Surviving Divorce Facebook page.
Right.
I'll take a picture of it, and you guys can see the it's kind of crazy.
Right. The other thing, just to throw in real quick, is that in no way have I ever tried to replace the other parent. So one thing that I've always done is to kind of keep myself separate from that. I mean, I want good interactions with them, and I am really careful about, I've made one mistake in 4 years, right? One mistake where I accidentally said something that could have been construed as a slight, and it was an accident. And it was once in 4 years, and I'm telling you, it was so embarrassing on my point, because I make it a point to not bring up the other parent, and if the subject of the other parent comes up because one of the children bring it up, I stay positive. You know, if they want to tell me all about the cool thing, or whatever, a shirt, a stuffed animal, whatever, and so.
Yeah, that was a tough one because it was a conversation, and it was a quick comment.
And, I mean, it wasn't over, and it wasn't intended. It wasn't like, oh, I just can't wait to get in. It wasn't like that. In fact, I wasn't even a part of the actual conversation. I was sitting off to the side.
Yeah.
And you know how when you're thinking of something, but you're not intending for your mouth to start moving? That's really what it was. Like, I'm thinking something like, oh my goodness, that's making me feel a certain way. And
it was the water bottle thing, because I had bought,
that's so embarrassing.
I bought the kids, basically one of these. These things are awesome, by the way. They're double insulated. They'll keep ice cold for 24 hours and your liquid hot for 12.
He doesn't make any money by saying
that.
I'm
not. This video is not endorsed by this. Anyways,
right.
These things are the bomb. And the funny part is the only reason I know about it is my middle daughter broke her cup, and the ex gave her one of those. I was like, and I tell you guys, it was tough to like, wow, she found something cool and to get it, but I really love this thing. But anyways, I bought some for the other kids. Ex wasn't going to do it, so I went to Walmart, which is where they had those, and bought 2 of them. And my middle daughter's got destroyed. Or it was my youngest. The youngest. Mm-hmm. It got destroyed. And it was like, I was looking at it and I was like, how did this happen? And my youngest daughter made a comment of, mommy, I dropped it and it was bent, and mommy tried to bash it in to make it bend on the other side. And I think, and it was just, I mean, you guys know. I mean, it's like, that she's, she's trying to destroy it, right? Because I'll tell you, all those cups, they're gone, right? They get lost. I mean, it's like, it's anything special gets sabotaged. And she made a comment like, I
think I mumbled something under my breath, like, how am I not surprised, or something like that? I didn't.
Oh my God.
Oh, I was, and I'm telling you,
the consequence of that was bad.
Yeah, but you know what? It did smooth over. Okay, so
it did finally.
We could use this as a learning experience.
Yeah.
Look, we're going to make a mistake every once in a while, okay? And so I felt really bad about it. I was like, later, and I talked with her, and I said, with my youngest. With the youngest, I said, I really shouldn't have said anything. It's like, that was wrong of me. That I should, I don't remember what else I said, but I just let her know that.
Well, she's hugging you again now. I mean, for a while there, it wasn't. So
right,
it was tough.
So just to say, like, we're not going around saying we're perfect and we say the right thing every moment of every day.
And the thing is when you make a mistake, like somebody was talking about that earlier, when you make a mistake, we make mistakes, right? If you do it with your kids, just, don't just erase it or pretend it never happened, acknowledge it and then move on from it. Don't let it corrupt you. Cause I know sometimes you can get in that situation that if you're going down a path, you feel like you have to follow the path. I'm trying to find there was a comment I wanted to, what was it? Josh had said, don't tell you. So I'm not gonna tell you. I'm just gonna tell everyone else. Don't tell Debbie I'm watching her on my 65-inch plasma.
Yeah,
that's awesome, John. My head.
Yeah.
Sorry, I couldn't help myself. Hey, you put it in the comment. How could I not do that?
Oh no.
All right, there was another thing. Angela Ramsey, welcome to, I think earlier you said this is your first live show. I know you've been on the channel for a long time, but welcome to the first live show. So glad you could jump on. It says it's very generous of both of you to share your experience, charming together, and it gives us a lot of hope to us who are fresher in the process. And you know what's really amazing, Angela, is that hope is critical. Without hope, these situations feel overwhelming, and that you're never going to get out of it. Angela Falsetta says, Debbie, you are doing better. You are doing better than great. You and Dwayne are lifesavers. Aw, thanks, Angela. Appreciate that.
Right. Thank you. So
Josh had also said, it's amazing. I saw this one. I'm amazed. Let me try to read this correctly, at how easy a relationship can be with the right person. Two givers coming together is awesome. Yeah. And you know what? And that's the key, right, guys? If you start, wait to date. And I know there were some comments about that before. And the flip side to that is just, if it's not right, just don't, listen to your inner voice. And what I'll say on that, I'm going to jump over here real quick to Chrome if this pops up. And if you go to my website, which is deadsurvivingdivorce.com, and you go to the resources page, I have, every time I do this, it doesn't look, you guys should all read The Alchemist, because it's an amazing book.
Great.
This one, Rebuilding When Your Relationship Ends by Bruce Fisher and Robert Alberti. Amazing book. And it really helped me to understand the process of this. And maybe this is the way my brain works, but I would check it out if you're, just starting this out, because it talks about how to deal with it, and talks about the different levels you can be at, and how as you grow, you actually attract where you're at, right? So if you're emotionally damaged, basically, you're going to attract a similar person. And as you heal, and it's a two-part thing, as you heal, you kind of put out that vibe that other people see. And the flip side to it is if somebody comes into your environment that isn't healthy, you're not going to put up with it, because you're healthy with yourself. You're okay with being, by yourself, that you don't need that other relationship on that. I mean, I know I've said this a couple of times. I'm trying to think how to word this, but, I don't, how am I trying to say, I'm not desperate for a relationship, right? So I mean, it's like, I'm sticking with Debbie because she's a good person. She's got a great soul. She's empathetic. I mean, she's, the type of person that I would want to be with. Right. And, so it's not like I'm making excuses or anything like that. It's a genuine relationship. And that is so critical, because if you don't have that, then you're like, well, they're okay for this, or, well, I need someone to go to the Christmas party. Not that we get to do that, but
right, exactly.
But exactly. That is super important.
Thanks for that, Dwayne. And also, I really do appreciate that. So we help each other, right? Which is the way it's always supposed to be. And
right.
He and I were not given childhood examples.
Yeah. No, that's a good point.
We are learning as we go.
Yeah.
But it comes naturally to us in a way, because we both have that empathic,
Well, and
but on the other hand, we've had to learn certain things too. We've had to learn how to take a compliment. Can you believe that? We have had to learn how to just say, instead of saying, okay, if someone says, I like your shirt, instead of me saying, well, if only it was this, and if only it was that, yeah, it's sort of nice. I have to learn to say, thank you. I'm glad you like my shirt.
No, that's a good point.
Right?
Yeah.
He and I have had to learn to do that. It's a process. I'm telling you. And I'm glad he wasn't desperate, and I'm not. Okay, so same for me, right? I'm not saying, well, I have to date Dwayne because I have to have a partner. I absolutely must have a partner, or I am not a complete person.
Right. Yeah.
So two incomplete people coming together does not make a complete person. No. What you have are two incomplete people.
Yep.
Who are miserable.
Yeah. Trying
to grasp it. And then if you're an incomplete person with another incomplete person, you are trying to take from the other person to fill fill the void. And it's never going to be enough, right?
Right.
So if you're already a complete person and you're with another person who is a complete person, is what's the analogy, if that makes sense to you, then it's just so much more relaxed, and it's not a struggle to get to know each other and to go through all the little bumps of life. It's more of a, you work on it together.
Yeah.
Which is what you're supposed to do. Wow, what a concept. Like, we didn't grow up learning that. So we're like in our midlife. Wow. Like, this is
well, and then the other thing that was, I mean, we're very similar. It's kind of, we like think along the same lines. I mean, it was actually, I mean, it was pretty intense when, I mean, I guess you could look at it, if it was a bad relationship and it was not gaslighting, the love bombing. That's what I mean. Because, right. People will go through and it's like, oh, you're into chocolate ice cream. So am I.
Oh, right, right. Yeah, me too.
Or I'm into cameras too, or whatever. And, we really meshed. And I will say this, I don't know if we've talked about this, but I, there were times where I would just kind of see how the conversation goes and not put too much out there to see what the yin and yang. I know we were talking about that the other day, but just to see if it's genuine. And that was the reason why it was important to take time. That's why even with the delays on this, see, and this is the thing, right? In a toxic relationship, if I would have said, I mean, if you were a toxic person or either or, when I was saying, hey, I want to take it slow, because of the kids and stuff like that, that would have been a problem. Right. And the toxic person would be pushing to like, well, I need to meet your kids and I need to move in.
Or you don't care about me enough. Because if you cared about me,
exactly.
How come you're not proud of me? How come you're not parading me around?
That's crap my ex used to say.
Oh.
Yeah. No, that's funny.
So this is an interesting, all right, everyone out there.
That is really funny. Because it's funny you say that, because I remember in the beginning.
I didn't know.
No, this is interesting, because in the beginning stages of my marriage, I had I did the taxes, and I did married filing at the single rate. Oh. She freaked out. Well, you don't want anyone to know you're married? What you just said is, I didn't even think about that.
Wow.
But I mean, so that's the thing, guys. Take your time.
Right.
Watch what's going on. Actions and words are critical. And nothing needs to happen quickly, I mean, and maybe it's just because we're older. I mean, and we're different phases in our life, I mean,
that's true.
That's true. It's kind of like we're in this situation right now. I mean, and it's kind of one of those things where we're we're okay with it, right? I mean, it's going to be 2 more years until my next daughter turns 18, another 6 or something until my youngest. And it's like, hey, we're cruising along. Things are going okay. I mean, is this really where we, want to be? I mean, 8 hours away.
Yeah, there is some traveling involved. But the thing is that, as I was saying, the foundation.
Oh, yeah.
The foundation that we're building, I don't need to be in the same city. First of all, I'm not the biological parent anyway, but I don't need to be in the same city to be able to establish at least a friend. Well, I guess friendship or relationship, since I'm not,
exactly.
So
exactly.
Quality, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so let's see. I know we were chatting up here, so let me look at where we are with the comments, and I hope if I missed any. Oh, hey, Alex is on. A proper person says, "Cool, two people live stream." Yeah, I know, and we're actually physically together. I haven't figured out how to do this remotely. One of these days, I'll figure that out as well. Shannon said, yes, 20 years later, my dad apologized and said I was always a good daughter. It was the best, most healing experience. Oh, that's cool. All right, let me see if there's any. Oh, wait a minute, question. Okay, so let me grab this. So filmmaker media has asked a question. Let me get over. Whoops. Let me go over here and duplicate that. And all right, I gotta do my clickety clack. Okay, so keynote. I think I hit the wrong button there. Filmmaker Meteor says, I'm assuming you said my narc makes a point of letting our daughter do the opposite of what I tell her. Wow. As in rules, bedtime. Oh my God, bedtime. I can relate to that. When to get off the phone, what to eat, and what time to stop eating, etc., etc.
I have to bite my tongue right now because I want to answer it, but it's your show. You answer it first, and then I can piggyback. Because this, as soon as we both read it, we're like, wow.
Well, see, and I've had to deal. I mean, what you're talking about is I've had to deal with this, and you see, what Debbie's talking about is there. I mean, I guess I'm like super patient because this has been a very long process. I mean, when Debbie and I first started dating, and then she started seeing the kids. My youngest daughter, I couldn't get her to take showers, and she would fight and you know, I mean, and then when you're in a relation, you know, when you're in this situation, let me go to this one. When you're in a situation like this, and you're seeing the other person be basically disrespected, you want to do something about it. So it was really tough for her.
It really doesn't matter whatever it is that Dwayne does or likes or doesn't like, the opposite must be asserted at the other place.
Yeah.
So if he didn't like, let's come up with just anything. If he didn't like purple dining room placemats, then she would make it a point that they have to have purple dining room I know that's a dumb example, but whatever it is that he likes or doesn't like, it has to be the opposite there, and it just is very tiring.
Now, what I would say on that, filmmaker, so here's the deal on that, and this is where the black hole thinking is really important, because you have to get to the point, it doesn't matter, right? You're never going to get the ex to do anything differently. You're never going to get them to, so in my situation, the ex doesn't work, right? I mean, she's living off of me. I'm the one who has to go to work. So like during the summer, she would let the kids stay up all night. And then in the early stages, whenever I still had to, I couldn't leave them at the house by themselves. I had them in summer camp and stuff. So, I mean, think about this. I'm dealing with a child that's basically staying up until 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. And I'm trying to think how old, what is that? That's like, so 12, so 8 years old. And, and the ex didn't care. So, it's like, well, my kids are on summer break. So they don't have to stay, they don't have to go to bed early. But all it was create drama. So here I am. I mean, I had one point where I had my daughter, took her to summer camp. Luckily, the people knew me and they called me and they're like, hey, your daughter has been asleep for 4 hours and we tried to wake her up for lunch, and I mean, it makes me, it's that type of stuff happens. What you got to do is just, one, realize that they're doing it for emotional control. Realize that they're doing it to try to make things as complicated, and they're trying to triangulate you with your kids because, well, mommy doesn't make me, take a shower every day. Is what I had to deal with. Mommy doesn't make me brush my teeth every day. Well, that one hasn't actually come up, but I mean, it's just, it's mommy helps me. I like the way mommy helps me with homework. I know I've talked about that because, when my child was failing, I mean, here's the deal. You focus on what is happening in your environment, and whatever the ex is doing, and it's not easy, right? I mean, there were a lot of conversations where, what about this at the other house? It's like, you know what? It's a different house. Whatever your mom does, that's her thing. It's different here. It's not open for debate. What I ended up doing on the shower thing is when I took the kids to one of to their physical appointments, I specifically asked the doctor, hey, doc, how often should children take showers? And she looked at me like I was, grew a third head. And she's like, every day? And I was like every day? I mean, like Saturday and Sunday, I mean, and I kind of did do it that way. And that helped, right? Because whenever the kids were like, well, mommy doesn't do this. And I'm like, honey, we talked to the doctor, when you had your physical and they said you need to do this. So that's why we're doing it. However your mom does it, it's irrelevant. We're not talking about what this is this house. What do you, what's going on over there that's her. That's your mom can make those decisions. Okay. Filmmaker Media says, can I use that in court? Did I miss the question on that? I'm trying to remember what that was. Let me look your comment up.
I was looking too. I couldn't.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yes. It's what I was just reading, what I was just talking about. So yeah, actually you can, and that's part of the documentation, Filmmaker Media. What I would do because it shows a pattern of behavior and stuff. Yeah. If you're in the middle of court, document everything, document, I got Jamie, I got Jamie today on my visit, for my weekend visitation. Her hair was greasy, she was unbathed and, not clean, document it. And what I'll say on that, let me swing back over to, if you haven't seen, let me go to Chrome. If you have not seen my interview with Joe Cordell, and actually even Alex talks a little bit about it, but Joe talks about it in a little bit more detail about documentation, how to do it, and how to present it in court. Because what you're dealing with is you're not going to be able to go to court and say, my ex is a narc. You're going to have to demonstrate a pattern of behavior. And that would demonstrate a pattern of behavior. And I mean, is it going to be a smoking gun that's going to make you win? Probably not. But it's whenever you get enough information and it demonstrates that pattern of behavior, then it helps your attorney, or if you're representing yourself, it helps you to demonstrate that. So let's see, Ryan. Ryan, I don't know if I said hello. I know I haven't seen you in the comments in a while, but welcome to the live stream. If I didn't say that earlier, it said negativism. That is called. Oh, wait a minute. They don't care. It's out of jealousy. Yeah, they don't. Well, and it's just easier. I mean, it's like, so in my situation, sometimes my ex is doing it. It's two-part. One, she's the same person she was when I was married. So it's not so much that she's doing things differently. The way she's raising, quote unquote, our children is the same thing whenever we were married. I just was blinded to it, and I had, my head up my behind. So some of it is like, I think it's like she lets the kids do. What I think the deal is on this, and I don't know, get your opinion on this, is I think she treats it that I don't exist. So, in the summer, if you kids are with you the entire time and you don't work, then it doesn't matter. You can stay up late because it's not a big deal. And since I don't matter, then it doesn't matter, right? So when the kids, so it's kind of funny because I think in some ways she does that black hole thinking. When they go over to me, it's like that, bing, she just doesn't even see it. I don't know. What do you think about that?
Oh, is it okay? But I do have a little bit of a different perception on it.
Oh, yeah. No, I love to hear it.
Different. And look at me preceding that by, is that okay? So
yeah.
There I am doing is it all right if I, and of course it's all right.
Yeah.
So I catch myself even during the live stream that I'm very cognizant of what the other person is thinking. I'm always concerned.
Oh, Cindy's taking off. So thanks for hanging out with us, Cindy. Says Dwayne and Debbie, hate to leave, but thank you for amazing live stream. Thanks. Take care and enjoy your weekend, everyone. All right. Thanks, Cindy.
That's awesome. Thanks for being on. So what I was going to say is, so he brings this up a lot where he really feels like that she feels like he doesn't exist. And maybe that is the case. I just have this perception that because of all the sabotage and the other things that go on, while he's with the kids, that's what makes me wonder, well, is it really that he doesn't exist to her, or is there something else? Because she's planning and doing and...
Yeah, I hear what you're saying.
Poke. So if you're poking someone even so slightly, you're not really pretending they don't exist. However, but I do see his point of view as well. So... because there are instances where that makes sense, what you said as well. So I'm not trying to contradict at all.
No,
it's just
and I would say the caveat on that is, since that's kind of her parenting style, I mean, she's not really holding the kids accountable. So it's not like she was mom of the year, doing everything. I mean, honestly, guys, here's the thing. I mean, this is something that's kind of interesting. My son has cerebral palsy and had all kinds of complications when he was younger with that. He had to have breathing treatments and stuff. And one of the things he had was something that the side effect is it ruins your teeth. And his teeth were yellow and stained and everything. And I actually believed that it was because of that, right? I'm like, oh my God, this poor kid, he's on top of everything else. Now his teeth are ruined. But I was, I was working. I wasn't dealing with the rearing of the kids. So the kids weren't brushing their teeth. I mean, it wasn't that. It was like, after all this stuff happened, and I felt like a complete moron on a lot of this, but, so that's what I'm saying. I mean, a lot of this stuff isn't so much, it's just that it's the same type of stuff that she's always done. It's like, yeah, I brushed the teeth. My son, he had a surgery and was supposed to do exercises, and I'd come home from work. I'm like, hey, man, I almost said his name again. Did he did he do his exercise? Oh yeah, he did his exercise. Well, come to find out later, she was having him do his exercise in his room by himself. You know, a 9-year-old, and this is way before the divorce, they did this surgery where they basically cut his femur and tibia and, I mean, to reposition his legs to try to, I mean, it was a massive, not exactly a fun experience. And he needed to do these exercises to link, you know, to help him heal. And it didn't happen. Same thing with his lazy eye. I mean, he was supposed to do stuff. And I just assumed that it was happening, right? I mean, so, and that's why I hear what you're saying, and I think it's a mixture of both. But that's where I kind of, that's where I when I say that, it's because I can look at it, and this is why I think it's important, because a lot of times when you're looking at these people and you think, oh my God, they've changed, have they really? Most of the time, they're who they've always been. And now they're not getting the supply or need the supply, or they've discarded you or whatever. So they don't have to put that facade on. But what I noticed is when I took a step back and I looked at the situation, who she is today, my ex, is the same person she was that I married. You know, 20 forever
and
ago.
Dwayne is sometimes hard on himself when it comes to the fact that, when they're in their marital relationship, he was the sole, well, you're still the sole breadwinner, to be honest, because she's not, okay, but anyway, that's another story. So he was the one bringing in the income, and so he's not saying that when you say you weren't involved with rearing the kids, you don't mean that you weren't involved at all. But but the thing is, they had their arrangement was that the everyday little things that need to be done, like he just assumed, well, she is not working outside the home, I'm working outside the home. So there was this assumption. Yeah. And it's not like they were checking in every night going, now let's go down the checklist. Did you make sure that the kids brush their teeth? It's not like they did that, right? It's just not, she didn't make sure when he got home. Did you make sure you went to all of your meetings at work?
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, like, no, you're right.
Yeah,
you're right.
So they didn't,
I mean, I just assumed,
weren't doing that kind of a thing.
You know, and then part of it was just a denial of, I mean, you know, you don't want to believe it, right? Or you make excuses for it, or you know, your past life, it makes sense, and you know, you justify or validate it. I see Angela Falsetta's had to go. She's spending some time with her daughter today, so hopefully that goes well. If you probably already left, but thanks for hanging out.
And Amethyst 3 was very complimentary. Thank you so much. Well, actually, not just you, a lot of you out there.
I see.
I really appreciate
Amethyst
the love you're sending.
Pretty lady equals Debbie. Thank you for being here.
Oh, that was very
nice.
sweet. And this wasn't the easiest thing for me, so thank you so much for being so gracious as I am debuting with this intimidating camera staring.
So here's the thing, right? So she doesn't necessarily like, you know, is it when we did the last live show. And I mentioned that I was coming up here, and I kind of said that. She had no idea I was going to do that. So she's like, I'm going to be live. So
yeah, and then somebody made that comment, oh, I have a 65-inch TV.
Yeah, that's funny.
I'm like,
That's hilarious. So that was so I kind of ambushed her on that. You've actually done you've done great. So so on that, we've actually been going for 2 hours and 45 minutes. So I think we probably should well, I see Filmmaker Media has a question, so let me look at this. It says, I find myself in a fog of hate and anger when with my narc. She is always scheming, and I am trying to stay ahead. I am not myself, and I'm sure my daughter picks up on that. Does it go away? Oh man, you did ask. I should have put that on a slide. You know, it does. It does go away, and it just takes time. You know, Filmmaker Media, I think you're kind of still in the early stages of this, so don't beat yourself up on this, because you know this absolutely is not the easiest thing to deal with.
And as we said, not an event, it's a process.
Yeah,
and not
exactly.
a fast process either.
So yes, and I would say, I mean, like we were talking about earlier on the show, and I don't know if you've seen it, you have to go back, but I was in that state. I mean, in the early part of our relationship, I was in that fog of hate and anger. I mean, I hate to say it, but I was. I mean, and that wasn't that long ago. And you know, like we were talking about before, I mean, it's completely. I mean, it's different. You know, and it will. So you will get through this. So when you're struggling with it, and this is the thing on this that I would say is when you're when you're going through this, a lot of times, like this is what happened with me, where I would think like, oh my God, I'm going to be stuck in this hate and anger and frustration stage forever. And then, especially because at the time I didn't have, a channel like this or people who'd been through it who could articulate it in a way that made sense. And you feel like you're alone. You feel like you're losing your mind, and you feel like you're never going to get over it. You are. Give yourself the time to do it. So hopefully you can look at it and go, okay, all right, I'm not going to be over it today. Maybe not next week, but I'm going to keep working on it. And I believe that there's hope that it's going to go away. And it is filmmaker media. It just takes time. And you guys, you have to understand that and accept it. Oh, BB's on. Hey, BB, haven't seen you in a while. Says, hi all. Hello, Debby.
Hello.
So he also, I don't know if you posted another video. I haven't been able to check that, but he's also a new YouTuber trying to create a channel. So thanks for jumping on, BB. But actually, we're going to be wrapping things up. Oh, Drama Free 2018. I didn't see you jump on, so welcome. Says, that is so true that after the divorce, any common courtesy is completely gone. The abuse has escalated, in fact. Yeah, that's, we just got a subscriber. Richie McGrath just subscribed. If you're on the live stream, Richie, welcome. And if you happen to watch it in a replay, welcome. And I'll highlight that in the table of contents. But yeah, it's weird because drama. Oh crud, where to go? Drama Free 2018. One of the things that really bothered me on this was how a complete stranger would treat me better than my ex. Right? I mean, yeah. It was just crazy. All right. So on that, let's see. Let me try to look here. Jenny Wren says, I'm very quiet today, Dwayne and Debby, but listening. Amazing interaction with you both. Great couple. Super vibes there. So happy to see the good, that good comes back. Thanks to you both. Oh, thanks, Jenny. I appreciate that. All right. So guys, we actually ran a little bit longer, but I think we're going to wrap it up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through my normal spiel. So if you, let me get to my website. If you go over to the Dad Surviving Divorce website, you can, if you click on this link here, you can send me a direct email. You can also do it here by clicking here, and it'll bring up a web form. If you use this one and you want to send me a cool picture of your beautiful location, I would really appreciate it. I love it when you guys do that. If you haven't signed up for the newsletter, you can do that. One, if you go to this website the first time, it will pop up. Otherwise, you can scroll down and enter it there, and then I will send out notifications on when the live streams are going to go on, and some other stuff. Mainly, it's about the live streams and stuff. If you, let's see, if you want to support the channel and help me keep the lights on, I guess you can do that through the PayPal link. Which helps. Some of you guys have done that, and I really appreciate that. It's also anonymous. If you do it during the live show, during the super chat, it pops up. I do have this resource tab on the website. Like I mentioned earlier, this Alchemist book, which has nothing to do with narcissistic abuse and or recovery. It is just an amazing book that helped change my life on how I look at things and some of my perspective, and it might help you. Another resource I recommend is The Divorce Poison by Richard Warshak. That is a really excellent book. There's also... I haven't read the one about the parental alienation, but this book was really good. It was a friend of mine gave it to me or recommended it, like the first part of the divorce. I already talked about the rebuilding when your relationship ends. Now, for you guys in the beginning stages of this, and I was when I was really going through those dark stages, I was really in a dark place. I actually turned to these hypnosis download files. And they actually helped, and these are the ones I use, is Mend a Broken Heart, Getting Over Divorce, Let It Go, and Unrequited Love. And then this Mean book is what I've done I did that project with Paul Calione, and he has a podcast. I'm going to try to bring him on and interview him just to help you determine. It's like a checklist to help you determine what's appropriate and what's abuse. I was really excited to work with him on that. Let's see if I needed to cover anything. Oh, the other thing, and let me go back over here. As you can see right here, which isn't up yet. If you want to if you're in the United States, unfortunately it doesn't work in the UK or outside. It might work in Canada, I'm not sure. So some of you Canada guys, you have to let me know if this works. But if you text DSD Live to 33222, it'll put you on a SMS or a text messaging list, and you'll get a text to your phone when I go live with the link, so that way if you're out and about or you forget, it'll drop on your phone and you'll actually see that. So on that, let's see, before we run off here, let me do it this way. So anything you want to say to everybody before we shut it down?
Well, there were some other comments on there that I saw that we don't have time to get to today. So as I've heard Dwayne say this before, if you want to, how do they do it at the end of the show or something? Or if we missed something, because there are other things on there that we could definitely address later. I really appreciate all of your comments and participation, and for being so open to me and my, as I'm easing into this format. And like I said, unless you've ever been on the side of the camera,
it's a little bizarre.
You don't know what it's like. It's a little strange. So, but I really enjoyed it. Thanks, Dwayne, for bringing me on and getting me a little more used to doing this, because I really enjoyed being able to share some of our experiences, and I really hope that it helped.
And you know what? I hadn't thought about this, but she made a good point. If you're watching this on the replay and your question wasn't answered, put it in the comments on this live stream. Just put it down and just put question on it. And I can either, because I know I haven't done my follow-up question and answer video because I had the kids over the holidays, but that way I can do one of two things. Either I can make a separate video about your question, or I can start the next live stream with that in there. And if you guys don't know, let me I also want to pull this up real quick, because I don't know if you guys have seen this. What I've started to do on, here, let me go back to Chrome. On the live show, here, I'm going to pull this up. I'm going to pause it. If you scroll into the description and it says this table of contents, I go through, and it's kind of a pain, but I go through and I index key moments of the live stream. I probably won't get to this one until a little bit later, because we're going to shut this down, turn the lights off, and get out of here. But when you go back to the live, to the replay, you should see these links, right? So, if you wanted to go on the one on Tuesday and you wanted to see the discussion, or you wanted to see the Wendy Hernandez video, you click right there and I'll do it. And it'll just drop you right into it. And let me pause it so you don't hear me talking over it. See, and let me just hit there, right? So it'll take you right to it. So, if you look through and you saw one of your questions, you want to go back and look at it again, you can do that. I don't know if everyone knows I'm doing that, but like here, Charisse has a question, and I'm going to pull it up, and boom, it pops right up. So I hopefully you guys like that. That's something I've been trying to do. And so I just want to mention that. And all right, on that, guys, I really appreciate you hanging out with us. This lasted 3 hours. We really only intended to do 2.
It went so fast. I just want you all to know, I didn't even realize it was that long.
That's one thing I will say that's kind of interesting on this, is that you don't like when the first time I made a video, and I was like, we remember us talking about it. It's like, oh man, how are you gonna have enough stuff to talk about? The first video I made, which I don't know if it's posted or not, was like 30 minutes. It's like you get so wrapped up in it, and it's just time flies. I did a podcast with a buddy of mine, same thing. And the first one we did, he was like, oh man, that was probably 5 minutes, and it was like a 30-minute podcast. Okay, so on that, guys, have an outstanding weekend. If you're in the United States and it's it's a 3-day weekend, enjoy your 3-day weekend. And I'll be back. I'm driving back on Tuesday. My intent, or the idea is, unless something goes wrong, I'm going to drive back, set all this stuff back up at my house in my normal studio, and I'll be back. I should be back, barring any problems, Tuesday, 6 p.m. Pacific time, for my normally scheduled every Tuesday live stream. So on that, have an outstanding rest of your day. Be kind to yourself. Don't beat yourself up on some of this stuff, and give yourself time to heal. And we'll talk to you on the next video. Take care. Bye.